Welcome back to Worlds of Protheka audiobooks. And if this is your first time, be warned. Once you step into Protheka, you'll never want to leave. With beasts who will stop at nothing to protect the women they love, and women who are only just finding out what a real man can be, you'll lose yourself in the dark romance of these fantasy stories. To bring you these free full audiobooks, we have to listen to this platform's guidelines, and they say that Protheka's steamiest scenes aren't allowed. But you can still get them from the unabridged version of any Prothekan audiobook. All you have to do is go to worldsofprotheka.com. With promo code YouTube30, we're offering you the opportunity to get 30% off of any audiobook, ebook, or bundle. We appreciate you subscribing to the channel, as it makes bringing these free full audiobooks to you possible. Don't forget to like and comment to let us know what you think. Protheka's magic is eternal, and this story is just the beginning. Chapter 1. Arizel. The lie has a scent, and tonight it smells like pine needles and sweet, cloying oil. It's an aggressively pleasant aroma, meant to mask the cavern's true perfume of damp stone, wet fur, and the faint metallic tang of old blood that has seeped into the marble itself. The Vraken call this the reformed solstice. I call it putting a wreath on a tombstone. From my hiding spot, I can see the evidence of this grand reformation glittering in the torchlight. Where heavy iron chains once hung, symbols of conquest, now hang delicate strands of carved ice and raw crystal. It's all very civilized, a pretty lie to tell themselves. My stomach, however, doesn't give a damn about hypocrisy. It only cares about the gnawing, scraping emptiness that has been my only constant for days. That hunger is a clawed fist twisting my insides, a truth more pressing than any royal decree. The scent of fresh-baked bread, dense and rich, cuts through the pine-scented lie like a sharpened blade. I watch the guards, their ghostly white skin and dark-socketed eyes making them look like spectres. They are predators forced to play shepherd, and their boredom makes them careless. My target is a wicker basket piled high with dark, round loaves, still radiating a faint warmth. The plan is simple: a feigned stumble, a quick hand, and 2 loaves disappear under my coat. My heart gives a slow, heavy thump against my ribs, a familiar drumbeat of risk and reward. Just as I gather my muscles to move, a figure detaches itself from the deeper shadows. Lord Veinar. His skin is the colour of old bone. His lips a pale, bloodless slash in his face. He isn't watching the guards. His dark, empty-socketed eyes are fixed on the stores, on the shadows, on me. He is a vulture, and I suddenly realise with a jolt of ice-cold certainty, he's been waiting for me all along. Being dragged into the main hall is like being plunged into a nightmare. The sheer scale of the cavern is designed to crush the spirit, to make any living thing feel small and insignificant. Black ice stalactites as thick as ancient trees hang from a ceiling lost in shadow, each one weeping a slow, eternal tear. The air is cold and rich with the scent of their strange floral perfumes, and the clean, inhuman smell of their flesh. I am a public spectacle, a smear of human dirt and sweat, a flaw in their ethereal, monochrome tapestry. Veinar's grip is a band of iron on my arm as he propels me toward the Warlord Drazian and the human queen, Solène. Veinar shoves me hard, and my knees crack against the polished marble floor. "A thief, my lord," he announces, his voice ringing with a well-rehearsed, self-righteous fury. A human, caught stealing from the solstice offerings, an execution would honour tradition. I tune out his speech, focusing instead on the woman on the throne, the human queen. I can see the ghost of fear still lingering in her grey eyes, but she speaks for me anyway, her voice a thread of steel in the oppressive silence. It takes guts to speak for a street rat in a room full of wolves. The Warlord Drazian watches the exchange, his crimson eyes unblinking, his handsome face a mask of cold indifference. He is not a king weighing justice. He is a general assessing a tactical problem. When he speaks, his voice is like the grinding of glaciers. "The Queen is correct," Drazian says, his gaze flicking dismissively over Vaynar before landing on me. "However, a punishment is required, a lesson in community. You will be bound in iron chains to my enforcer for the duration of the solstice rites. It is not mercy he offers, but a political calculation. I am to be chained to Arik, his enforcer." My gaze is drawn to the figure standing at the base of the throne, a mountain of pale, scarred skin and black iron, the monster from the stories. As he looks down at me, I feel not terror, but a grim, weary recognition. I know his kind. He is a language that I understand. The chain is heavy, each link of black iron as thick as my thumb, smelling of the forge, of coal smoke and quenching oil. It's a functional thing, made for binding beasts and breaking spirits. Arik approaches, his steps unnervingly silent on the marble floor. The great hall has fallen into a hush, every Vrakan noble watching this small, intimate drama unfold. He takes the shackle, and the act of fastening it around my wrist is a violation more profound than any blow. His fingers are cold, impersonal, but his proximity is an oppressive weight that radiates a silent, simmering rage. The cold iron closes around my wrist, a collar, a cage. The primal suffocating fear of being trapped surges up my throat like bile. Panic, cold and absolute, threatens to swallow me whole. "Don't you dare!" I snarl at myself, the voice in my head the only thing holding me together. "Don't you dare let them see it!" I force the frozen muscles of my face to move, to twist into the only weapon I have ever truly owned. The heavy lock clicks shut, the sound sharp and final, sealing my fate to the monster beside me. I lift my head slowly and meet Arik's furious glare. And I smile. It's a sharp, mocking street rat grin that shows too many teeth. "Don't you look thrilled?" I say, my voice like a blade of sarcasm. Before he can react, I give the chain a sharp, deliberate tug. It's an insult, a challenge, a promise. The heavy links rattle, a dissonant chord in the silent hall. Even leashed, I will not be broken.
Chapter 2. Arik. The sound of the chain rattling in the cavernous silence of the great hall is the sound of my humiliation. It is a sharp, ugly, dissonant chord that echoes the mocking laughter I can feel, if not hear, from the assembled nobles. My authority, my entire existence, is built on a foundation of unbreachable discipline and the absolute unspoken threat of violence. I command respect through sheer presence. I do not beg for it, and I do not tolerate its absence. This human, this starved little street rat, has taken that foundation and cracked it with a single, insolent tug. A white-hot rage, pure and clean in its intensity, floods my veins. It is a familiar fire, a weapon I have honed over centuries on the battlefield. But here, in this hall, it is a liability. To kill her now, to rip the mocking grin from her face with my bare hands, would be to give the traditionalists exactly what they want. Proof that the Warlord's enforcer is an undisciplined beast, that his reforms are a farce. I can feel the smug satisfaction radiating from Vaynar's corner of the room, and the fury in my chest burns hotter. The chain is a living thing, a conduit of shame that connects me to her. I feel the slight defiant tension she maintains in the links, a constant physical reminder of her challenge. I will not suffer this. I will not be made a fool of in my warlord's court. My first duty is to restore order, and order begins with control. I yank the chain brutally, a movement so sharp and sudden it rips a choked gasp from her throat and sends her stumbling forward, nearly crashing to her knees. The message is clear. I am the master of this leash. I set the pace. I dictate the terms. Without a word, I turn and drag her from the hall, my stride long and punishing, forcing her into a half-running scramble to keep from being pulled off her feet. The sound of her boots scraping against the marble is a satisfying, if temporary, victory. We emerge from the relative quiet of the antechamber into one of the main thoroughfares, and the full weight of my public shame crashes down on me. The cavern is alive with Rockin preparing for the evening rites, and every single head turns as we pass. They stare at the great, scarred enforcer, the Warlord's own right hand, reduced to a common jailer, his wrist physically bound to a filthy, smirking human. The sight is an absurdity, a joke at my expense, and the whispers follow us like a cloud of biting insects. "Look!" Lady Nicera's venomous voice cuts through the crowd from a nearby balcony, loud enough for all to hear. The enforcer has a new pet, or has Drazian simply shortened his leash? A wave of cruel, tittering laughter follows her words. My jaw clenches so hard I feel a tooth grind. Before I can issue a threat that would silence her permanently, the creature chained to me decides to add her own fuel to the fire. "Don't listen to them," she says, voice a stage whisper dripping with false sympathy. "I think the chain looks very distinguished on you. It really brings out the fury in your eyes." My head snaps down to glare at her, but she just gives me that same sharp-toothed grin. The combination of Nicera's public mockery and Arazel's private taunting is a pincer movement against my control. As we pass a small alcove, I see the human queen's attendants, Isolde the scribe and the child, Mira, watching us. The child's eyes are wide with a strange, fascinated awe. "She isn't afraid of him at all," Mira whispers to Isolde, her small voice carrying in a lull in the crowd. The observation is a tiny sharp needle prick that finds a seam in my armor. It is a declaration of my own failure. I am the most feared male in this city, and a human child can see that I have already lost control. I wrench the chain, pulling Arazel off balance and into a less-traveled service corridor behind a row of dormant forges. The air here is cooler, smelling of cold iron and coal dust. I need a moment away from the prying eyes, from the whispers, before I do something that I will not regret. But the Warlord most certainly will. I shove her against the cold stone wall, the chain holding her pinned. "Another word," I snarl, my face just inches from hers, my voice a low, dangerous growl, "and I will tighten this chain until you cannot draw a breath to speak it." Her eyes flash with a spark of fear, but it is quickly extinguished by that infuriating defiance. Before she can reply, a calm, measured voice speaks from the end of the corridor. "That would be unwise, Arik." "Lucerys." He steps out of the shadows, his expression grim, his gaze moving from my face to the girl I have pinned against the wall. He is one of the few males in this city who does not fear me, and for that I have always given him a measure of respect. Today his presence is an unwelcome intrusion. "This does not concern you, Lucerys," I say, not moving. "It concerns the Warlord," he counters, his voice steady, "and his reforms. That girl is not just a thief anymore. Drazian has made her a symbol." He takes a few steps closer, his gaze unwavering. "She is a symbol of his new, merciful justice. Her defiance is proof that she is not broken, that the punishment is humane. If you break her spirit, if you harm her in a fit of rage, you give Vaynar and his ilk the victory they were denied in the hall. You prove that our new way is no different from the old one." He stops, his point made, his logic a cold, unbreachable cage. "If you break her," Lucerys says, his voice dropping to a near whisper, "you break the reforms." I stare at Lucerys, the truth of his words a bitter, metallic taste in my mouth. He is right. The Warlord's political maneuvering has trapped me. My personal desire to crush this creature's insolent spirit is now in direct conflict with my sworn duty to uphold my Warlord's new law. I am a weapon, and my own master has just pointed me at my own head. With a low snarl of pure, impotent fury, I release Arazel and step back. She slides down the wall slightly, rubbing her wrist, but her eyes never leave my face. There is a new, triumphant glint in them now. She has seen the bars of my cage, and she knows I am as trapped in this as she is. Lucerus gives a single curt nod, his point made, and melts back into the shadows, leaving me alone with my prisoner and my rage. The silence is thick with her victory. Without another word, I grab the chain and begin the final, humiliating walk to my chambers. She follows this time without any resistance, her silence more infuriating than her taunts. As we walk, she finally speaks again, her voice soft, conversational, and laced with pure distilled poison. "So, Enforcer," she says, the title a clear mockery. "What's it like when the Warlord's leash is shorter than your own?" My control, a thing I have spent centuries perfecting, snaps. I stop, spin, and get right in her face, my entire body thrumming with a violence I can barely contain. "You're going to learn to hold that tongue," I hiss, my voice a low promise of pain. She does not back down. She looks me straight in the eye, a small defiant smile playing on her lips. "I'm a quick study," she says, "but I have a feeling this is going to be a very long lesson for both of us."
Chapter 3. Arisel. The morning after my grand debut in the Warlord's court is a lesson in the mundane realities of captivity. My body aches from a night spent on cold stone, and the chain on my wrist feels twice as heavy. Arik is a creature of rigid, infuriating discipline. He rises before the first faint light filters through the high vents, moving through a series of silent, precise exercises that I am forced to be an audience to, the chain a constant, jarring tether to his every movement. He is a caged storm, his rage from the previous night having settled into a low, simmering pressure that makes the very air in his chambers feel thick and hard to breathe. He ignores me completely, treating me as a piece of inconvenient luggage he is forced to carry. This will not stand. If I am to be his shadow, I will be the most irritating, inconvenient shadow he has ever had. I wait until he is halfway through the complicated process of strapping on a piece of his heavy armour, a manoeuvre made clumsy and awkward by our connection. "I'm hungry," I announce to the silent room. He does not look at me. The only acknowledgement is the slight tightening of the muscles in his jaw. "And thirsty," I add, a little louder this time. "And I'd like to see what all the fuss is about with this new reformed solstice of yours. Seems a shame to miss the festivities on my account." I give a tiny tug on the chain. It is a petty, childish gesture, but it has the desired effect. He stops what he is doing and slowly turns his head, his crimson eyes fixing me with an expression of pure, undiluted murder. I give him my brightest, most insincere smile. The cage may be small, but I will not sit quietly in the corner. If I am to be dragged, I will at least choose the direction. The market is a chaotic, vibrant spectacle, a sharp contrast to the sterile silence of Arik's chambers. The air is permeated with the scent of roasting meat, mulled ash wine, and the cloying pine of the solstice incense. Vraken of all stations move through the crowded grotto, their pale faces and dark eyes, a monochrome sea broken by the bright colours of merchant stalls and festive decorations, and we are the main attraction. Arik stalks through the crowd like a thundercloud, his fury a palpable aura that parts the sea of Vraken before us. But their fear is secondary to their amusement. I can see it in their eyes, the way their lips twitch as they watch the great enforcer, the Warlord's own blade, being led through the market by a human on a chain. The humiliation radiates from him in waves, and it is a grim, satisfying warmth against the cavern's chill. My eyes are drawn to the decorations, the symbols of this new, gentler age. High above, strung between the great stone pillars, are the chains of night. But instead of the bones of defeated enemies, these new links are forged with glittering crystals and shards of polished ice. It's a pretty, fragile lie, a vivid contrast to the heavy, functional iron that binds my wrist to his. As if on cue, a familiar venomous voice slithers down from a nearby balcony. "How festive, Arik!" Lady Nysera calls out, her words dripping with mockery. "Chains once for captives, now for clowns." Her companions titter with laughter, the sound sharp and cruel. Arik stops dead, his entire body rigid, his gaze fixed on Nysera with such lethal intent that even she, for a moment, looks afraid. The crowd around us has fallen silent, all of them watching, waiting to see how the enraged beast will react to being so publicly poked. This is my moment. Arik is a monolith of silent rage, his reputation the only thing he has left. And Nysera has just handed me a hammer. Before he can issue a threat that would only prove her right, I step forward, using the slack in the chain to position myself slightly ahead of him. I turn my face up toward the balcony, my expression one of wide-eyed, innocent curiosity. "Oh, don't be cruel, my lady," I say, my voice loud and carrying, drawing the attention of everyone nearby. He can't help it. It must be exhausting. All this reforming, I hear the Warlord has you all playing with candles and sharing your feelings now. A few nervous chuckles ripple through the crowd. I'm not just talking to Nysera, I'm performing for the entire market. In my village, when a predator starts acting like prey, it's usually because it's lost its teeth, I continue, turning my gaze to a group of swaggering young nobles. But you all have a much better way of feeling powerful, don't you? I lean in, as if sharing a grand secret. Don't you have some animal bones to carve? I ask, my voice laced with mock sympathy. Some fake omens to invent to prove the goddess still speaks to you. The effect is instantaneous. A wave of shocked gasps, and more importantly, outright laughter, erupts from the crowd. I have taken a secret shame of the old guard, their pathetic, manufactured prophecies from the last solstice, and thrown it in their faces. Nysera's face goes pale with fury, her public mockery utterly defeated. I have turned the joke back on them, and the crowd is eating it up. And Arik is vibrating with a rage so profound it feels like the stone beneath my feet is beginning to tremble. My victory is short-lived. Arik's control snaps. With a single, brutal yank on the chain, he rips me from my stage, my feet scrambling for purchase on the smooth floor. The crowd scatters, their laughter dying in their throats as the beast finally bares its teeth. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. He simply drags me away, his pace punishing, his grip on the chain an iron fist. He pulls me back into the deserted service corridors, the sounds of the market fading behind us. He shoves me against a wall so hard the impact jars my teeth, his body a wall of muscle pinning me in place. The chain is pulled brutally taut between us, a bar of cold iron against my throat. "You," he snarls, his face inches from mine, his crimson eyes burning like pits of hellfire. "You think this is a game?" "Everything's a game," I choke out, my own fury rising to meet his. "And you're losing." For a terrifying second, I think he is going to kill me. I can see the frantic, violent struggle in his eyes, the battle between his duty and his primal, murderous rage. But then I see something else. I see the truth of Lucerys's warning reflected in his fury. He can't break me, not without breaking the Warlord's new law. With a roar of pure, frustrated rage, he releases me and slams his gauntleted fist just beside my head, the impact echoing like a thunderclap. He turns and stalks away, the chain forcing me to stumble after him. I have found his weakness. It isn't a flaw in his armour or a chink in his resolve. It's the Warlord's own decree. It's the very reforms he has sworn to protect. I have turned his reputation into a joke, his greatest strength into a source of public ridicule. And the chain he uses to control me is the very thing that prevents him from killing me. The game has just begun.
Chapter 4. Arik. The Vigil Feast is a testament to everything I have come to despise about this new, reformed era. It is a pantomime of civility, a collection of pretty, hollow gestures designed to mask the brutal truth of our nature. I stand in the shadows of the great hall, a statue of black iron and contained rage, forced to bear witness to nobles sharing goblets of snow and blood, their voices low and reverent as they speak of chosen bonds and endurance. It is a farce, a weak imitation of the raw, honest power of the old rites, and I am forced to be a part of it. The true source of my fury, however, is not the feast itself, but the constant, irritating presence chained to my wrist. The human, Arizel, has been uncharacteristically silent since we arrived, but her silence is not one of submission. It is the watchful quiet of a predator studying its new environment, her sharp eyes missing nothing. She is not a humble prisoner. She is a student of chaos, and I can feel her taking the measure of this room, of my people, of me. The chain is a constant physical humiliation. Every time I shift my weight, I feel the slight answering tug from her. I am the Warlord's enforcer, a being whose autonomy is as absolute as his strength, and I've been reduced to this, a beast of burden tethered to a creature of chaos and whim. I long for the simplicity of the battlefield, for an enemy I am permitted to kill. Drazian rises to offer the main toast of the evening. A hush falls over the hall, a reverent silence that grates on my already raw nerves. He speaks of unity, of the new path they are forging, his words smooth and practiced. Beside me, I feel Arizel shift, a small, subtle movement that I register with a sense of dread. She is about to do something. As Drazian raises his goblet high, I feel a sudden sharp tension in the chain. It is not a gentle tug. It is a full-bodied, calculated pull, a perfectly timed act of sabotage. The force is unexpected, and for a horrifying, endless second, I am thrown completely off balance, my armored boots scraping loudly on the marble floor. I manage to brace myself just before I would have stumbled, the clatter of my gauntlet against a stone pillar, the only sound in the suddenly silent hall. Every eye is on me. The toast is forgotten. I turn my head, my vision swimming with a red haze of pure, murderous rage. She is standing there, leaning back against the full length of the chain, a small, triumphant smirk playing on her lips. From the high dais, I see Drazian's face, a thunderous mask of displeasure. But beside him, Queen Selene lifts her goblet to her lips to hide what I am certain is a smile. The damage is done. I have been made to look like a fool, and as I seethe, my fists clenched, Lord Castan chooses his moment to strike. He does not rise. He simply leans toward a neighboring noble, his voice a low, carrying sneer that is meant for me, and for everyone else to hear at his side. His loyal shadow, the hulking Lord Kieran, places a heavy hand on the pommel of his war axe, his crimson eyes burning with a zealot's pure, unthinking fire. "You see?" Castan hisses, his eyes glittering with malicious glee. "The Warlord speaks of new bonds, but he gives his enforcer a true chain, a chain of weakness." He raises his own goblet, not in toast to Drazian, but in a mocking salute to me. Kieran's silent menace gives his words a physical weight, a promise of the violence to come. Kieran is more than Castan's enforcer. He is his keeper, his priest, the zealot who gives Castan's ambition the language of faith. Perhaps when Lady Syrexa returns, she will remind us of the proper use of chains, Castan continues, his voice dripping with venom. To restore true chains with blood, and put both beasts and their pets in their rightful place. His words are a clear, undeniable echo of Syrex's own rhetoric, a declaration of loyalty to the old ways. Arizel's petty act of defiance has provided our enemies with a powerful new symbol, Auric, the Unbreakable, brought to heel by a human. She is not just an irritation, she is a political liability. The feast concludes, and the bell tolls for the silent hour. The torches are extinguished, plunging the great hall into a profound and sacred darkness. My silence is not peaceful. It is a tense, suffocating cage that I am sharing with a creature of pure, undiluted chaos. I stand rigid in the darkness, waiting for her next move. Instead, I hear a faint rustle beside me, and then a whisper, so close it is a breath against my ear. "So," she whispers, her voice laced with a pure, irreverent amusement. "Is this the part where we all hold hands and sing? Or do we just try to guess who's breathing the loudest?" My first instinct is a surge of pure, disciplinary rage. But then a second, utterly alien feeling washes over me. In the midst of this tense, suffocating piety, her whisper is a small, sharp pinprick of honesty. It is, to my absolute horror, a relief. I am torn. My fury at her insolence is at war with this strange, unwelcome sense of release. She has broken the silence, and a part of me, a part I did not even know existed, is grateful this human is a poison, and I'm beginning to fear I've already been infected.
Chapter 5. Aricel. The next morning, I am granted a new and exciting role, political prop. Arik hauls me from his chambers, his mood a black, simmering thundercloud, and drags me back to the great hall. It is not a formal feast this time, but a council session, which is somehow even more boring and twice as pretentious. The Warlord is on his throne, flanked by his queen, and the rest of the high-ranking nobles are assembled to discuss matters of grave importance, which apparently now includes me. Vaynar, the vulture who caught me, insisted on this. I am to be made an example of, a living, breathing exhibit of the Warlord's merciful justice. I stand before the dais, the chain a heavy, cold weight on my wrist, Arik a silent furnace of rage beside me. I can feel the eyes of every noble on us, their gazes a mixture of contempt for me and mocking pity for the great enforcer, reduced to the role of my keeper. They are not seeing a punishment. They are seeing a comedy, and we are the clowns. I meet their stares with a look of bored indifference. I have been judged by better people than them, and in much dirtier places. Their finery and their titles mean nothing to me. They are just wolves in prettier pelts, and I know exactly how to deal with wolves. I let my gaze wander over the polished marble, the glittering ice chains, the self-important faces, and I feel a familiar, weary cynicism settle over me. This has absolutely nothing to do with a stolen loaf of bread. This is a performance, and I am the unwilling star. Lord Vaynar rises, his movements slow and theatrical. He is enjoying his moment, the smug, self-satisfied snake. He gestures toward me, his pale, long-fingered hand a condemnation. "Behold, my lords," he begins, his voice slithering through the silent hall. "The proof of our warlord's folly. We offer these creatures sanctuary, a place at our tables, and how do they repay us? With theft, with deceit." He turns his gaze on Selene, a subtle but venomous attack. This is the nature of their kind. They are not like us. They are driven by base, animal needs, and they cannot be trusted. To treat them as equals is to invite treachery into our very homes. It's a good speech, as far as hateful, paranoid speeches go. He's not talking about me. He's talking about all humans. He's using my hunger as a weapon against the Queen, against the reforms, against this entire fragile peace. Before Drazian can respond with a threat or a snarl, another voice cuts through the air. A human voice. "Hunger is not treachery," Isolde, the scribe of the new dawn, says, rising from her seat near the dais. "It is survival." Her voice is steady and clear, a stark contrast to Vaynar's oily rhetoric. This woman stole because she was starving, not because she is a traitor. The community you speak of, Lord Vaynar, is one she has not yet been made a part of. We cannot demand loyalty from those to whom we have not yet offered a place. It's a nice thought. Very noble, very naive. I watch them debate over my head, the snake and the songbird, and I feel a surge of pure, undiluted irritation. One wants to execute me to prove a point. The other wants to save me to prove a different one. It never occurs to either of them to simply ask me. I am not a symbol. I am not a political statement. I am a person, and I am tired of being talked about as if I am a piece of furniture. The irritation boils over, hot and sharp. I take a step forward, the sharp rattle of my chain cutting off Isolde's earnest defence. Every eye in the hall snaps to me. Even Arik beside me seems surprised by my sudden movement. I look from Vaynar's sneering face to Isolde's well-meaning one, and I give them both a slow, dismissive shake of my head. You both talk too much, I say, my voice sounding like a rough, street-worn thing that is utterly out of place in this hall of elegant predators. I hold up my shackled wrist, the black iron a stark contrast to my pale skin. You want to kill me, I say, nodding to Vaynar. And you want to save me, I add, glancing at Isolde. Frankly, I don't give a damn either way, but if I have to choose between being a political statement and being a meal, I'll take this. I shake the chain, the links clattering loudly in the stunned silence. Better chained than bled, I say with a shrug. The hall erupts. The crude, pragmatic statement, a truth spoken from the gutter, is a profound insult to both sides. The traditionalists are enraged by my insolence and my casual dismissal of their sacred rights. The reformists are shocked by my vulgarity, my refusal to play the part of the grateful, pitiable victim. Shouts and accusations fly through the air, the fragile civility of the council completely shattered. Through it all, a single clear voice cuts through the chaos like a whip. Silence! Queen Selene is on her feet, her eyes blazing with a fire I did not know she possessed. The authority in that single word is absolute, and the hall, once again, falls into a stunned, resentful quiet. Selene handles the rest. She dismisses the council with a few sharp, clipped words, her authority unquestioned. Lord Vaynar glares at me one last time, his eyes promising a slow and painful retribution, before sweeping from the hall. The performance is over. Arik grabs the chain, his grip tight enough to make the bones in my wrist grind together, and begins to drag me away. The walk back to his chambers is a silent, tense affair. The rage is still pouring off him in waves, but it's different now. Before, it was the hot, simple anger of being publicly humiliated. Now it's something more complex, more thoughtful. As we walk through a deserted corridor, I risk a glance up at his face. He is not looking at me. His gaze is fixed straight ahead, but his expression is not one of pure fury. There is a deep, thoughtful frown creasing his brow, as if he is trying to solve a complicated puzzle. He felt my defiance in the hall, my absolute refusal to be categorized, to be used as a pawn by either side. He saw me stare down a room full of the most powerful beings in his world and spit in their eye. He is someone of complete, unbreakable will, and he has just recognized a sliver of that same unyielding iron in me. He is still furious. He still hates me. But as I watch the subtle, almost imperceptible shift in the set of his jaw, I see it. A flicker of something new in the depths of his crimson eyes. It is not kindness. It is not empathy. It is the grim, grudging respect of one predator for another. He thinks he has me on a leash, but he is beginning to understand that he is chained to something just as wild and just as unbreakable as himself.
Chapter 6. Arik. My punishment continues. Drazian, in his infinite wisdom, has decreed that my prisoner must be present for all solstice rites as part of her lesson in community. This means I must escort her through the Great Hall, where acolytes and artisans are in the process of hanging the great chains of night. It is another public parade, another opportunity for the court to witness my disgrace. The air is filled with the sounds of industry, the clinking of metal, the scraping of ladders against stone, but all of it fades to a dull hum beneath the whispers that follow us like a plague. Arizelle, naturally, is enjoying every moment. She walks with a jaunty, almost cheerful step, the slack in the chain a deliberate, insolent swing between us. Her eyes dart everywhere, taking in the scene not with the awe of a penitent, but with the critical gaze of a master craftsman assessing the work of amateurs. She looks up at the long, glittering strands of crystal and polished iron being hoisted into place, the symbols of our new, enlightened age. "It's all very pretty," she says, her voice dropping to a low murmur meant only for me, but laced with the same sharp sarcasm that has become her signature weapon. "You Rakan have a real talent for decoration. It's a shame you're not as good at locking up your bread." I ignore her, my gaze fixed forward, my jaw a knot of granite. To respond is to engage, and to engage is to lose. I have learned this much. Her taunts are a constant, irritating thrum beneath the surface of my control, a test of the discipline I have spent centuries perfecting. She is a persistent, chattering bird, and I am the stone statue it has chosen to build its nest on. The irony that I, the master of silence and intimidation, am bound to a creature of ceaseless, mocking noise is not lost on me. As we pass beneath the high archway, a commotion near the base of a great stone pillar draws my attention. A group of acolytes are gathered, their voices a low, worried buzz. Lying on the polished marble floor is a section of one of the ceremonial chains, and at its center, one of the main links, a heavy fist-sized piece of black iron meant to symbolize the strength of the Warlord, is in pieces. It is shattered, the metal fractured and broken. "It must have been a flaw in the forging," one of the acolytes says, his voice reedy with concern. "A weakness in the iron." The others murmur in agreement. It is a bad omen, a symbol of the Warlord's new order breaking under its own weight on the eve of the most important ritual. I step forward to inspect the damage, my professional duty overriding my personal fury. The break is clean in some places, jagged in others. It is possible it was a forging flaw. "It's not a flaw." RSL's voice is quiet, but it cuts through the acolyte's worried chatter. I turn to glare at her, but she is not looking at me. She is crouched, the chain forcing me into an awkward, half-bent posture, her gaze fixed on the broken pieces of the link. "Look," she says, pointing with her free hand. "Here and here. Those aren't stress fractures. Those are tool marks." I follow her finger, my eyes narrowing. She is right. On the inside edge of the break, nearly invisible to an undiscerning eye, are a series of tiny, parallel scratches, the kind a metal file would make when used to score a weak point. On the outer edge, there is a small, deep indentation, the impact point where a heavy, focused blow was struck. This was not an accident. This was not a flaw. This was deliberate. This was sabotage. I stare at the marks, a cold, professional anger replacing the hot, personal rage in my gut. This is an act of treason, a direct attack on a symbol of the Warlord's authority. The acolytes are still muttering about bad omens and flawed forging, their piety making them blind to the malice right in front of them. It took a human thief, a creature with a lifetime of experience in how things are broken and how rules are bent, to see the truth. "Her eyes are sharp," I say to the lead acolyte, the words feeling like stones in my mouth. It is the closest I can come to giving her credit. I scan the surrounding area. There is a faint trail of metal dust on the floor, almost invisible against the dark marble, leading away from the pillar and toward a narrow, rarely used service tunnel. The saboteur was clumsy. Or arrogant. "Secure this area," I command the acolytes. "Say nothing of this to anyone. I will handle it." They bow their heads, their relief at being given a direct order palpable. I turn and begin to follow the faint trail of dust. The chain pulling taut Arazel stumbles after me, a smirk playing on her lips. "Her eyes are sharp," she mocks, her voice a low whisper. "Is that Vraken for thank you?" "It is Vraken for be silent," I snarl, not breaking my stride. "You know, for a master of intimidation, you're not very good at it," she continues, her voice light and conversational as we step from the bright, open hall into the oppressive darkness of the tunnel. "You should try smiling more. It works for me." The darkness of the service tunnel is absolute. It is a familiar, comforting environment for me, a place where sight is a liability and my other senses reign supreme. The air is cold and dead, the only sound the faint scrape of our boots on the stone and the soft, irritating clinking of the chain between us. I slow my pace, my senses reaching out into the blackness, listening for any hint of another presence. There is nothing. The saboteur is long gone, but the silence itself is a weapon, a tool of intimidation that I have used to break countless lesser males. I will use it now to break her. We walk in the oppressive, tomb-like quiet for several long minutes, a silence I am certain will wear down her bravado, will remind her that she is in my world now, a world of shadows and death. Suddenly she laughs. It is not a nervous titter or a sound of fear. It is a low, genuine chuckle of pure, undiluted amusement. The sound is a shocking, profane intrusion into the sacred silence, a spark of light in a place that has never known any. It echoes off the close stone walls, a strange liquid melody that does not belong here. "What?" I snarl, my control finally snapping under the strain of this final bizarre insult. "This is ridiculous," she says, her voice still filled with laughter. "Look at us. A giant grumpy Batman chained to a starving thief, wandering around in a dark tunnel looking for clues. It's like a story for children. A very strange, very bad story." Her laughter echoes again, and in that moment it unnerves me more than any threat, more than any scream, more than the deepest, most absolute silence ever could fear. This is a language I intimately understand. Rage is my native tongue. But this cheerful, fearless, utter lack of reverence for the darkness I command, is a language I have never encountered. It is alien, and it is the most dangerous thing I have ever faced.
Chapter 7. Arizel. The next day we are back in the market. The air is permeated with paranoia, the sabotage of the ceremonial chain. The topic of every hushed conversation, Arik is a storm cloud of silent, focused fury, his eyes constantly scanning the crowd, hunting for traitors in the throng of Vrakan shoppers. It's all very dramatic. His single-minded focus, however, presents an opportunity for a little experiment. He embodies pure discipline, his reflexes honed by centuries of battle. I have seen his rage, and I have felt his reluctant protection. Now I want to see how fast he really is. It's a stupid, reckless impulse, born of a lifetime of poking at things I shouldn't. My target is a merchant stall overflowing with the new, reformed solstice decorations. I pause, pretending to admire a particularly gaudy crystal carved in the shape of a snowflake. "Thinking of redecorating your half of the floor?" I ask Arik, my voice light. He grunts, his eyes still scanning the crowd. He is not paying attention to me. Perfect. With a flick of my wrist so fast it is barely a blur, my fingers close around the charm. I do not hide it. I simply let it fall into my open palm, a glittering piece of evidence. I wait for the explosion. The explosion is silent but no less devastating. One moment I am holding the charm. The next my wrist is encased in a grip of pure, unyielding iron. His hand closes over mine, his strength so absolute that the delicate crystal shatters between our palms, its sharp edges digging into my skin. He doesn't shout. He simply turns and drags me from the crowded market into a narrow, unlit alley between two merchant houses, the air ripe with the smell of refuse and stale ash wine. The chain is pulled brutally taut, a bar of cold iron against my chest, and his face is inches from mine, his crimson eyes burning with a fury that is hotter and more dangerous than anything I have seen from him before. This is not the controlled anger of an enforcer. It is the raw, unrestrained rage of a predator. "Do you have a death wish?" he snarls, his voice a low, guttural sound that vibrates through my bones. I should be terrified. But in this moment, pressed against a wall by a creature of pure, lethal power, I feel a strange, exhilarating calm. This is what I understand. I meet his furious gaze without flinching. Are you offering? I ask, my voice a quiet, steady challenge. You're the one holding the leash, so make a choice. Kill me or carry me. I'm done walking. My words hang in the air between us, a final, absolute challenge. I have laid my life at his feet, not as a plea, but as a statement of fact. For a long, breathless moment, I think he is actually going to do it. Just as the moment is about to break, a shout erupts from the nearby market square. It is Lord Caston's voice, loud and full of manufactured outrage. He pushed me! The human filth put his hands on a Vrakan noble! The sound shatters the intimate, violent bubble of our standoff. I can hear the sounds of a scuffle, the crash of an overturned stall, and the rising angry murmur of a crowd. It's a performance, a piece of political theatre designed to ignite the simmering resentment against the human population. I risk a glance past Arik's shoulder and see Castan shoving a bewildered human merchant, while Chiron stands nearby, his hand on his axe, a look of pious fury on his face. They take our food, they mock our traditions, and now they assault us in our own streets, Castan bellows. How long will we tolerate this infestation? The crowd roars in approval, an ugly baying noise. The precious piece of the reformed solstice is about to be torn apart. The roar grows louder, closer. The narrow alley is a trap, a dead end with no escape. The first of the rioters appears at the mouth of the alley. It is Chiron, his face a twisted mask of brutal glee. In his hand, he is holding not a makeshift club, but the heavy, spiked head of a war axe. He sees us. He sees me. His lips pull back in a predatory snarl. There! He roars, pointing at me with his weapon. The witch and her pet. Cleanse the filth. In that moment, something shifts. Arik's focus, which had been a burning point of rage directed solely at me, snaps outward. Before I can even process what is happening, he moves. It is not a conscious decision. It is a pure, violent reflex. He releases my wrist and spins, placing his own massive body between me and the mouth of the alley. He does not draw his sword. He simply stands there, a mountain of black iron and silent menace, his arms slightly outspread in a gesture that is unequivocally protective. He is shielding me. Chiron skids to a halt, his bravado evaporating in the face of the Warlord's enforcer. The crowd behind him falls silent. Arik says nothing, but the message is clear. This one is mine, and you will not touch her. We both stand there, frozen in our new, impossible positions. Him, the shield, and me, the one being shielded. The shock of his instinctive action is a physical jolt, a silent, stunning recognition for both of us that the chain that holds us is no longer the only thing that connects us. There isn't much left of the world after the orcs came.
Savage. Brutal. Merciless.
If you're a woman, you're property. Even to other humans.
What happens when an orc stakes his claim on a human woman? Who would dare to stop him?
Me.
Chapter 8. Arik. The riot in the market is suppressed with the brutal efficiency I have trained into my sentinels. Kieran and his cronies are dragged away, their feigned outrage replaced by a very real terror as they are taken to the dungeons. The crowd melts back into the shadows, leaving behind a scene of overturned stalls and shattered goods. My instinctive act of shielding the human is a moment of weakness I refuse to analyze. It was a reflex, nothing more, a soldier protecting his charge. A summons comes immediately. The Warlord is furious. I leave Aracel chained to the post outside the council chamber doors, a necessary and deeply satisfying, if temporary, separation, and enter to receive my orders. Drazian is pacing before the great hearth, a caged predator radiating a killing energy. Solène stands beside him, her face pale but her expression firm. "This was a coordinated attack," Drazian snarls, his voice low and dangerous. "The broken chain, the staged fight in the market, it is all of it Syrexa's poison, spread by the traitors still in our midst." He stops pacing and turns his burning gaze on me. His command is not a request, it is an unsheathed blade. "Find them," he orders. "Find the saboteurs who broke the chain and every noble who had a hand in their little performance. Crush this conspiracy before it can grow. I want names, Arik, and I want them by dawn." "It will be done, my lord," I say, voice a low rumble of absolute certainty. "This is my purpose, my function. I am the instrument of my warlord's will. The hammer that smashes his enemies. I live for this clarity, for the simplicity of a direct order and a clear target. But as I turn to leave, a cold, humiliating reality crashes down on me. I am a hammer, but I am a hammer that is currently shackled to a piece of kindling. My duty is to hunt in the shadows, to move unseen, and my ability to do so has been fatally compromised. My fury returns, a cold, hard knot in my gut. I begin my work immediately, striding through the corridors to my command post near the armory, the chain once again a constant, irritating presence between me and the human. She has to half-run to keep up with my long, purposeful strides, and the small, satisfying gasps she makes as she stumbles along are the only pleasure I can find in this absurd situation. I need to be a phantom, a whisper of dread in the minds of my enemies. Instead, I'm a clumsy, two-headed beast, our movements announced by the constant, mocking clatter of iron links. I summon my lieutenants, a grim-faced cadre of my most trusted sentinels. They stand at attention, their expressions disciplined masks of neutrality. But I can see the flicker of confusion in their eyes as they look at the girl chained to my wrist. I'm giving orders for a citywide manhunt, a delicate operation of interrogation and surveillance, and I'm doing it while tethered to a human thief who is watching the entire proceeding with an unnervingly intelligent gaze. "The market incident was a distraction," I growl, as I point to a map of the city's lower levels. "The real target was the chain. The saboteur will have left a trail start in the service tunnels." As I'm giving the orders, Aracel lets the chain go completely slack. I take a step to the side to indicate a different tunnel entrance on the map, and the slack is gone, the chain snapping taut around my ankle, nearly sending me sprawling. I catch myself on the edge of the table, a low snarl ripping from my throat. She looks up at me with an expression of wide-eyed false innocence. "Sorry," she says, her voice dripping with insincerity. "Big dog on a short leash. You get tangled up sometimes." The insult, so casual, so public, is a final, unforgivable straw. My lieutenants pretend not to have heard, their gazes fixed firmly on the map. But the damage is done. My authority, in front of my own men, has been compromised. I dismiss my men with a curt, angry wave of my hand. They retreat, their relief at escaping the charged atmosphere a palpable thing. I'm left alone in the corridor with her, the source of my humiliation, the anchor holding me back from my duty. The rage I've been suppressing for 2 days finally boils over, a black, scalding tide that drowns all reason, all thought of politics or consequences. I am no longer an enforcer. I'm a predator, and she is my prey. I grab the chain and haul her, stumbling and crying out in surprise, into a darkened, empty alcove used for storing old armor. I slam the iron grate shut, the sound a definitive clang of a cage being locked in the dim light filtering through the bars. I shove her back against the cold stone wall, my body a wall of muscle and fury pinning her in place. The chain is so short now, it is a bar of solid iron between us, my shackle digging into the flesh of my wrist, hers into hers. "You think this is a game?" I hiss, my face mere inches from hers. "You think you are clever." Her heart is hammering against her ribs, a frantic, terrified rhythm I can feel through my own chest plate. I I can smell her fear, a sharp, intoxicating perfume that ignites every predatory instinct I possess. This is where she breaks. This is where the defiance shatters and the pleading begins. I lean in, my fangs extending with a will of their own. My intent to terrify her into a silent, manageable obedience. I will give her a taste of the monster she has been so bravely mocking. My fangs graze the soft, vulnerable skin of her throat, and I feel the frantic, fluttering pulse of her life beneath them. The frantic beat of her pulse against my teeth is a drumbeat calling to the most ancient part of my soul. The scent of her terror is a dizzying, intoxicating drug. My entire being screams at me to bite down, to let the hot, living flood of her life wash away the humiliation, the frustration, the rage. It would be so easy. A single, final solution to this infuriating problem. But she does not scream. She does not beg. She does not even flinch. As my fangs press against her throat, I feel her body go completely, utterly still. The frantic hammering of her heart slows to a steady, defiant beat. She lifts her head, a small, courageous movement that presses her pulse more firmly against my teeth. "Well," she whispers, her voice a rough, ragged sound, but completely devoid of fear. "Are you going to stand here drooling on me all night?" Her eyes, wide and dark in the gloom, lock onto mine. "If you're going to bite," she says, her voice dropping to a low, mocking taunt, "do it." The words are a bucket of ice water thrown on the fire of my rage. She is not just defying me. She is challenging me, calling my bluff. She has looked into the very heart of the monster, and she has not backed down. And in that moment, the pure, clean line of my hunger, my rage, becomes tangled with something else. Something unwelcome, confusing, and dangerously potent. It is the same grudging respect I felt in the hall, but magnified, twisted into a strange, dark current of desire. With a guttural snarl that is equal parts fury and self-loathing, I wrench myself away from her. I stumble back, the chain yanking her forward, the desperate sound of my own ragged breathing, harsh in the enclosed space. I stare at her, at this impossible, unbreakable creature, and I am shaken to my very core. The hunger is still there, a burning ache in my fangs, but it is no longer simple. She has infected it with something else, and it dawns on me with a cold, terrifying certainty that she is a poison for which I have no antidote.
Chapter 9. Arizel. The hunt for the saboteurs is a fool's errand. The trail of metal dust we were following has long since disappeared into the endless branching darkness of these forgotten tunnels. Arik is a creature of pure, relentless determination, his fury at the saboteurs now a cold, focused obsession. He moves through the oppressive blackness with a predator's certainty, dragging me along in his wake, the chain a constant, jarring tether. The air down here is ancient and cold, smelling of wet rock and the dead, dusty scent of a place that has not known life for centuries. Suddenly, a distant, sonorous sound echoes through the stone. It is the tolling of the great bell from the city above, signalling the beginning of the silent hour. The sound is a deep, mournful groan that seems to vibrate through the very rock beneath my feet. Arik does not stop. The sacred piety of the new rite means nothing to him when he is on the hunt. But the world above has other plans. A soft, whispering sound begins, a gentle hiss that grows steadily louder. High above us, through a wide, weakened section of the tunnel ceiling, a torrent of snow begins to pour down from a surface vent. It is not a gentle dusting. It is a sudden, violent deluge, a waterfall of white that crashes to the tunnel floor. A deep, groaning crack echoes through the passage as the ancient stone, weakened by the sudden cold and weight, begins to give way. With a roar, a section of the ceiling collapses, a cascade of rock and ice that completely blocks the tunnel behind us. Arik reacts with pure instinct, grabbing me and shoving me into a small, cramped alcove just as the rockfall thunders past, sealing us in. We are trapped. The roar of the collapse fades, replaced by the soft, steady hiss of the snow still falling through the breach in the ceiling. The alcove is barely large enough for one person, let alone a Vrakan of Arik's size and me. We are pressed together in the absolute darkness, the forced intimacy, a sudden, shocking violation of the hostile distance we have tried to maintain. His body is a wall of heat and hard muscle at my back, and the chain that connects us is a cold, tight line digging into my wrist. I can feel the slow, steady rhythm of his breathing, can smell the clean, inhuman scent of his skin mingling with the cold, earthy smell of the snow. The silence is no longer a weapon between us. It is a shared, suffocating space. My own breath catches in my throat, my heart a frantic bird against my ribs. This is not the controlled menace of the great hall or his chambers. This is something far more primal and dangerous. My defiance, my sarcasm, all the weapons I have used to keep him at bay, feel useless in this profound physical closeness. Here, in the dark, we are not enforcer and prisoner. We are just two bodies, bound together, trapped by the whims of a mountain. My hand, pinned between his side, brushes against the bare skin of his forearm where his gauntlet ends. I feel not the smooth, pale skin of a noble, but a landscape of raised, jagged-lined scars. Dozens of them, crisscrossing his skin like a roadmap of a violent, brutal life. An impulse, born of a curiosity so deep it overrides my fear, takes hold of me. Slowly, tentatively, my fingers begin to trace the lines of his past. He flinches at my touch, a sharp, sudden intake of breath, a tensing of the muscles beneath my fingertips. But he does not pull away. He is an individual of absolute physical control, yet in this moment, he allows this small, intimate transgression. My fingers explore the rough, ropey texture of the scars, each one a story of a battle fought, a wound taken. I feel the deep, jagged line of a blade, the puckered, circular mark of a piercing, the strange, smooth texture of a burn. This is not armour he wears. It is a part of him, a testament to a life of violence and duty. He is a weapon, forged and reforged in the fires of 100 battles. But weapons do not bear their own scars. Warriors do. My own past is a collection of scars, not on my skin, but on my soul. I understand this language. You wear your sins like armour, I whisper, the words a soft, breathless thing in the hissing silence of the falling snow. The words are not a judgment. They are a recognition. I am not just touching his skin. I am touching the truth of him, the brutal, unadorned reality that lies beneath the silent, disciplined enforcer. I feel a low growl rumble in his chest, a sound of pure, primal warning. It sounds like a beast whose cage has just been rattled. But I do not pull my hand away. I have come too far to retreat now. His control shatters. With a guttural snarl that is equal parts rage and something else, something raw and desperate, he spins, his size and strength overwhelming in the tiny space. He presses me back against the cold stone, his free hand clamping onto my jaw, forcing my head up to meet his. I cannot see his face in the absolute darkness, but I feel the heat of his fury, the scent of his hunger. Then his mouth crashes down on mine. It is not a kiss. It is a representation of war, a savage, brutal claiming meant to punish, to dominate, to silence me. His lips are hard and unyielding, his teeth grazing my own. And the kiss is a battle of wills, a clash of fire and iron.
Sorry for the interruption. I know you were gearing up for a steamy scene, but it's way too hot for this platform.
If we want to keep sharing our stories for free, we have to abide by this platform's guidelines.
To get the full unabridged audiobook, go to worldsofprothika.com.
Browse through unabridged audiobooks, countless ebooks and bundles offered at a discount.
If the thought of me whispering all the dirty details into your ear isn't enticing enough, use discount code YouTube30 to get 30% off of all digital products.
Story after story, Audiobook after audiobook, the worlds of Prothika are waiting for you.
Prothika's magic is eternal.
But unabridged, it's unforgettable. Afterward, we remain pressed together in the darkness, our breathing ragged, our bodies slick with sweat. The silence that returns is heavy, changed, but neither of us pulls away. We are no longer just chained, we are bound.
Chapter 10. Auric. The silence that follows is solemn. We are still pressed together in the cramped, dark alcove, the hiss of the falling snow the only sound, but the air is no longer charged with the simple, honest energy of a fight. It is thick with the aftershock of our surrender, a heavy, complicated thing that I have no name for. I can feel the soft, steady beat of her heart against my chest, a fragile rhythm that is a stark difference to the violent, chaotic storm in my own soul. I have failed. It was not a failure of duty or a tactical error. It was a failure of the self, a complete and catastrophic breach of the discipline that has defined my entire existence. For centuries I have been a weapon, a tool of absolute control, my own desires a thing to be suppressed and mastered. In a single, unguarded moment of weakness, this human has undone it all. She did not just get under my skin. She has burrowed into my very soul, a poison for which I have no antidote. A cold, terrifying fury, directed not at her but at myself, washes over me. I pull away from her, the movement sharp and brutal. The chain yanks her forward, and she stumbles against me for a moment. Before catching her balance, I do not help her. I turn my back, creating what little distance I can in our shared prison, and begin the grim, physical work of clearing a path through the rockfall. I slam my gauntleted fists into the smaller rocks, my movements fueled by a desperate, self-loathing rage. I need to focus on the mission, on the physical reality of the stone and the cold. But I can still feel the ghost of her touch on my skin, can still taste the memory of her on my lips, and I know, with a cold, sinking certainty, that I am no longer in control. We emerge from the tunnels hours later, covered in dust and grime, the silence between us a raw, open wound. The city is awake, and the stares that follow us are no longer just amused or contemptuous. They are speculative, hungry. The news of the sabotage has spread, and now the sight of the enforcer emerging from the dark tunnels with his chained captive sparks 1,000 new rumors. I ignore them, my expression a mask of cold, hard granite, and deposit her back in my chambers, the silence there even more suffocating than in the tunnel. Later, I am forced to escort her to the communal hall for the midday meal. The walk is a gauntlet of whispers and sideways glances. She is silent, her earlier bravado replaced by a quiet, watchful intensity. She is studying me, I realize, her sharp eyes trying to decipher the new, cold distance I have placed between us. She decides, as always, to test the bars of her cage. "Did you find what you were looking for down there?" she asks, her voice a low murmur as we pass a group of gossiping nobles. "Or did you just need to hit something for a while?" The words are a direct, knowing strike, a reminder of my loss of control in the tunnel. I stop and turn to her, my glare a physical force. But before I can respond, I see the look in her eyes. The mockery is still there, but it is a shield, hiding a new, uncertain vulnerability. Her gaze lingers on my mouth for a second too long, and I know she is as haunted by what happened between us as I am. This realization does not comfort me. It enrages me further. This is a weakness, a shared contamination, and it is a weakness that others have already begun to notice. From across the hall I see Lady Nicera watching us, a slow, malicious smile spreading across her face. She has found a new weapon, and she is already aiming it at my heart. Nicera does not waste time. The rumor she crafts is a masterpiece of political assassination designed to destroy my reputation and, by extension, the authority of the warlord I serve. It slithers through the court with the speed of a striking viper. The enforcer, the great Auric, has not been humbled by his punishment. He has been bewitched. The human thief, a common street rat, has used some sort of feminine mortal magic to cloud his mind, to turn him from a loyal dog into her personal pet. The story is absurd, a laughable fantasy. But in a court already seething with resentment against the new influence of humans, it is a story that many are all too willing to believe. It explains my failure to control her, my public humiliation, my strange, distracted behavior. It is not that I am weak. It is that I have been enchanted. My honor, my greatest and only true possession, is being twisted into a scandal, a cautionary tale about the dangers of human treachery. The poison finds its way to the most innocent ears. I'm standing guard outside the Queen's council chambers when I see the child, Mira, playing with a small carved toy nearby. She overhears two of Nicera's noblewomen whispering the story with cruel, laughing embellishments. They say he follows her around like a lost pup, one says. She has him completely under her spell. What a disgrace. I heard she's a witch, the other adds. She'll have him killing for her by the next new moon. The Warlord should have had her executed. I see the child's face go pale, her eyes wide with a fear that is not for herself, but for another. She drops her toy and runs, her small feet a frantic patter on the stone. She runs directly to the Queen's private garden, her voice a terrified, high-pitched cry for Solène. She is afraid for Arizel. And in that moment, I understand the true, deadly purpose of this rumor. It is not just meant to disgrace me. It is meant to put a target on Arizel's back. My blood runs cold. A disgraced enforcer is a political problem. A human witch who has magically enthralled the Warlord's most powerful weapon is a threat that must be eliminated. Sarah is not just trying to ruin my reputation. She's trying to get Arizel killed. I find her back in my chambers, where I have left her chained to the wall ring. She is staring at the blank stone, lost in her own thoughts, the bravado she wore in the hall completely gone. She looks small, vulnerable, and for the very first time, the sight of her chained like an animal fills me not with satisfaction, but with a cold, protective fury. The game you are playing has changed, I say, my voice dropping to a low, hard growl as I enter the room. She looks up, her eyes narrowed, the defiant mask snapping back into place. "I'm not playing a game," she retorts. "You are," I snarl, crouching before her, my face inches from hers. "And you are losing. Nicera is spreading rumors that you have bewitched me. She is painting you as a witch, a saboteur. In this city, that is a death sentence." I let the words sink in, watching the flicker of genuine fear in her eyes. "They will use you to get to me," I say, the words becoming a grim, undeniable truth. "They will use your life to destroy my honor." The fear in her eyes is quickly replaced by a familiar, stubborn fire. She leans forward, the chain pulling taut, her face so close I can feel her breath on my skin. "Then stop letting them see me as a weakness," she hisses, her voice a blade of pure, undiluted steel. "Stop treating me like a victim they can use. If you want them to fear me, then you need to stop being afraid of me yourself."
Chapter 11. Arizel. His words from the night before hang in the air between us, a raw, undeniable truth. Stop letting them see me as a weakness. That thought has been a persistent, burrowing thing in my mind. He is right. My defiance has been a reaction, a way to prove I am not afraid, but it is not a plan. To survive this, I need more than a sharp tongue. I need knowledge. The key to this entire conspiracy is the sabotage, and the key to the sabotage is the broken chain link. "I need to go to the scriptorium," I announced the next morning. Arik, who is in the middle of cleaning one of his many, many blades, does not even look up. "No," he says, his voice flat. "The Queen sent for me." I lie, the words smooth and practiced. "She requires my assistance with some of the human petitioners. Something about the allocation of winter furs." It's a plausible lie, just the sort of soft, merciful duty Selene would concern herself with. He stops his work and looks at me, his eyes narrowed with suspicion. He does not believe me, not for a second. But he also cannot directly refuse a summons from the Queen without appearing insubordinate. I have him trapped. With a low snarl of frustration, he rises and gestures toward the door, with the blade he is holding. The walk to the scriptorium is a tense, silent affair. He knows I am playing a game, and I know that he knows. When we arrive, I am relieved to see Isolde at her desk. I give her a look that I hope conveys the urgency of my situation, a silent plea for her to play along. She is a survivor. She understands the language of necessary lies. Isolde, bless her quick-witted soul, understands immediately. She gives Arik a polite, deferential nod and explains that yes, the Queen requires my help, but first she needs me to cross-reference some of the older festival inventories. It's a perfect, boring, bureaucratic excuse. Arik, clearly out of his element in this world of parchment and ink, retreats to the doorway to stand guard, his fury a palpable, simmering presence. The moment he is out of earshot, I pull the small, sharp fragment of the broken iron link from my pocket. I don't need inventories, I whisper to Isolde, placing the fragment on her desk. I need a dictionary. What do these runes mean? She picks up the fragment, her scribe's eyes narrowing as she examines the crude, jagged marks. She compares them to the notes and charts spread across her own desk, her brow furrowed in concentration. This is not the common dialect, she murmurs, tracing one of the symbols with her ink-stained finger. It's an older, more technical script a builder's cant. She pulls a heavy, leather-bound tome toward her and flips through the pages. This symbol, she says, pointing to one of the scratches, means stress point, and this means shatter. A cold dread begins to creep up my spine. This is not a curse. This is not a symbolic act of defiance. This is a plan. Isolde continues to work, her initial academic curiosity turning to a horrified understanding. The runes are not a prophecy. They are an instruction manual. They detail a sequence, a method for weakening the main anchor points of the great chains of night, the ones that hang directly over the assembly hall where the final vigil will be held. The broken link was not the goal. It was a test run. The saboteurs planned to collapse the entire massive structure of iron and crystal onto the crowd below. They are not just trying to undermine the reforms. They are planning a massacre. A wave of nausea washes over me. I think of the children, of Mira, who will be at that final vigil. This is not just politics anymore. It is cold-blooded murder on a massive scale. Isolde's face is pale, her eyes wide with the same horror that is churning in my own gut. "We have to tell someone," she whispers, her voice a thin, reedy sound. "The Warlord. Arik." "No," I say, my mind racing. "Not yet. If we go to them now, the conspirators will know their plan has been discovered. They will simply change it, or go into hiding and wait for another chance. We need to know who they are." Isolde looks at me, her initial shock giving way to a new, steely resolve. She is a woman of words, but she has the heart of a warrior. She gives me a slow, firm nod of agreement. "I will keep looking through the archives," she says. "This script is rare. Whoever knows it must have had access to the older texts. It's a place to start." She is proud of my discovery, but her pride is overshadowed by a deep, maternal worry for my safety. She knows, as I do, that I have just walked into the centre of a very dangerous storm. As I turn to leave, I nearly collide with Lucerys, who has been standing silently in the shadows of a nearby bookshelf. He must have been listening the entire time. His expression is grim, his gaze fixed on me. Lucerys steps forward, blocking my path back to where Arik waits at the door. He looks down at the heavy iron chain that binds my wrist to the wall of muscle across the room. "Chains can bind," he says, his voice a low, cryptic murmur. Or they can break. It all depends on the story you choose to tell with them. He gives me a long, searching look, then steps aside, letting me pass. His words follow me, a strange, resonant echo in my mind. Choose which story you tell, I walk back to Arik, my steps sure and steady. I finally understand. My defiance, my refusal to be a victim, my theft of a worthless piece of bread, it has all, by accident, made me into something I never intended to be. In this court, where every action is a symbol, I have become a symbol of human resistance. The traditionalists see me as proof of human treachery. The reformists see me as proof of human resilience. But they all see me, and the chain is my emblem. Vaynar wanted it to be a symbol of my punishment, a mark of my shame. But Lucerys is right. It is just a piece of iron. The story it tells is up to me. I stop before Arik, who glares down at me, his expression a mask of impatient fury. I hold up my shackled wrist, not in defiance but in a simple, declarative gesture. "Let's go," I say, my voice calm and clear. "We have a story to finish." He does not understand my words, but he understands the shift in my tone. The mocking, sarcastic girl is gone. In her place is a woman with a purpose. He gives a curt nod, and we walk from the scriptorium. The chain between us no longer feels like a leash, but like a promise. It is a symbol of my endurance, and I will wear it with pride.
Chapter 12. Arik. Her newfound sense of purpose is a strange, unsettling thing. The mocking, sarcastic girl has been replaced by a creature of cold, focused determination. She moves through the dark tunnels with a confidence that is utterly out of place for a human in our world. And since we were bound together, I'm not dragging her. I'm following her lead. She guides us back to the service tunnel where we found the broken link, then deeper into a section of the underworks I have not patrolled in decades. The air grows colder, thick with the smell of stone dust and the faint, acrid scent of metal being worked. She holds up a hand and we both freeze, the clinking of our chain a sacrilege in the sudden silence. Ahead, around a sharp bend in the tunnel, I see a faint, flickering light. And I hear a sound. It is a rhythmic, high-pitched scrape. Chisel on iron. My hand goes to the hilt of my sword, my body coiled, every instinct screaming that we have found the nest. I give her a sharp, silent gesture to stay back, but she shakes her head, her eyes wide and fierce in the reflected light. She will not be left behind. With a low, silent snarl of frustration, I accept the unacceptable. This human is now my partner in this hunt. We creep forward, our movements now perfectly synchronized, a practiced, silent dance we have learned through our forced proximity. We reach the edge of the bend and peer around the corner. The tunnel opens into a small, high-ceilinged grotto directly beneath the main hall. 3 figures dressed in the dark, hooded robes of acolytes are on ladders, their chisels and hammers working away at the massive iron anchor rings that are bolted into the cavern ceiling. They are the anchor points for the great chains of night, the very foundation of the entire massive structure. They are not just weakening the links, they are preparing to sever the entire thing from its moorings. The rage that ignites within me is a cold, clean fire. This is not the hot, frustrated fury Aracel inspires in me. This is the pure, killing rage of an enforcer witnessing an act of high treason. These are not just saboteurs. They are assassins planning to murder hundreds of Vrecken in a single, catastrophic act. I do not wait. I do not plan, I attack. I'm a blur of black iron and silent, released violence. The first saboteur, the one nearest the tunnel entrance, does not even have time to turn around. My blade sings as it leaves its sheath, and a single, precise, upward thrust through his back ends his life before he can make a sound. He slumps forward against his ladder, his tools clattering to the stone floor. The other 2 spin around, their faces masks of shock and terror as they see me, the Warlord's enforcer, a specter of death emerging from the darkness. They are nobles, I realize, their pale, arrogant faces familiar from the council halls. They are clumsy with their weapons, drawing ornate, useless daggers as they scramble down their ladders. They are politicians, not warriors, and they have just made a fatal mistake. The second one lunges at me, his dagger held in a fist like a common street brawler. I sidestep his clumsy attack with contemptuous ease, my free hand clamping down on his wrist, and I snap the bone with a sharp, satisfying crack. He screams, a high-pitched, pathetic sound, and I silence him with a brutal backhand that sends him sprawling to the floor, unconscious. The third, however, is smarter. He does not come at me. He sees Aracel, my one glaring vulnerability, and he lunges for her. My heart seizes in my chest. I am too far away, still entangled with the second saboteur, my blade on the wrong side. The third noble, his face a twisted mask of desperate fury, is almost upon her. She is a human, small and breakable, and he is a Vraken, a creature of superior strength and speed. This is the moment I fail. This is the moment she dies. But Aracel does not scream. She does not cower. She watches the noble approach, her eyes narrowed, her expression one of cold, calculating fury. In the split second before he reaches her, she acts. It is not a move of strength, but of pure, street-honed cunning. She takes a quick step to the side and, with a powerful, practiced flick of her entire body, she whips the length of our chain like a metal serpent across the floor. The heavy iron links catch the charging noble's legs at the ankle, a perfect, brutal trip that sends him crashing face first onto the stone floor with a sickening, wet crack. He lies still, a pool of dark blood spreading from beneath his head. I stare for a single heartbeat at what she has just done. She did not just save herself. She used her chain, the very symbol of her captivity, as a weapon. She has proven herself not to be a liability, but a resourceful, dangerous, and brutally effective ally. The grudging respect I felt for her before now solidifies into something far more potent, something I am not yet ready to name. My momentary distraction, however, almost costs me my life. The second saboteur, the one with the broken wrist, has pulled himself to his feet and is lunging at my unprotected back. I sense the movement a fraction of a second too late. I spin, my blade coming up in a desperate defensive arc. But I know I will not be fast enough before the saboteur's dagger can find its mark. Aracel acts again. She yanks on the chain with all her might, the sudden violent pull ripping my arm backward, out of the path of the descending blade. The dagger scrapes uselessly against my shoulder plate, and the opening is all I need. I pivot, my own blade a blur, and it sinks deep into the traitor's chest. He gasps, his eyes wide with a final, shocked surprise, before he collapses at my feet. The grotto falls silent, the only sounds our own harsh, ragged breathing, and the soft, rhythmic drip of blood onto the stone. 2 dead, 1 unconscious, and the conspiracy, for now, is broken. I turn to the last one, the one Aracel brought down. He is still alive, barely. His breath a wet, gurgling sound. I haul him up by the front of his robes, his head lolling. Who? I snarl, my face inches from his. Who sent you? He coughs, a spray of blood speckling my faceplate. Veinar, he chokes out, a look of triumphant hatred in his dying eyes. It is all for her. For the true queen, Syrexa. His eyes glaze over and his body goes limp. Veinar and Syrexa. He's using her name as a banner, a rallying cry for the disaffected. This is deeper and more dangerous than I thought. I let the body drop and turn to Aracel. She's leaning against the wall, her chest rising and fall rapidly, but her eyes are clear and sharp. See, she says, her voice a little shaky but laced with her familiar, infuriating sarcasm. Not useless. I look at her, the blood on the floor, the chain that connects us, the chain she just used to save my life. No, I mutter, the word a rough, grudging admission that feels like it is being torn from my very soul. Dangerous.
Chapter 13. Arizel. The vigil feast is a masterclass in performative piety. I am once again a prop, chained to the Warlord's enforcer and placed in a shadowy alcove to witness the solemn rites. Arik is a statue carved from rage, his body held in a state of rigid control, but I can literally feel the fury radiating from him in waves. The entire hall is bathed in the soft, holy glow of 1,000 candles, and the air is ripe with the scent of pine incense and the faint, coppery tang of the blood being passed around in ornate goblets. I watch as the nobles engage in their new, civilized ritual. They approach one another, murmur a few solemn words, and exchange goblets filled with blood and a single, perfect sphere of snow. It's all very elegant, very symbolic. It's also the most boring thing I have ever had the misfortune of witnessing. My stomach is full for the first time in weeks, and the warmth has made me sleepy. I find myself idly testing the weight of the chain, swinging it just enough to make a soft, rhythmic clinking against Arik's armour, a small private rebellion to keep myself awake. He lets out a low, almost inaudible growl, a vibration that travels up the chain from his wrist to mine. I give him a sweet, sideways smile. This is our new normal. A silent, endless war of petty aggravations. A young, idealistic-looking noble, his eyes shining with the fervour of a true believer, approaches us. He looks at me with an expression of profound, condescending pity, as if I am a stray dog he has found in the rain. Even the lowest among us should be offered a taste of the community's grace, he says, offering his own silver goblet to me. The blood within is a dark, swirling ruby, the snow a perfect white eye staring up at me. I look from the cup to his earnest, foolish face, and the boredom I felt curdles into a familiar, biting irritation. I look down at the goblet he is offering me, then at the heavy iron shackle on my own wrist. I lift my arm, the chain clattering loudly in the relative quiet of the hall, drawing the attention of several nearby nobles. I give the shackle a contemplative tap with a finger from my free hand. Then I look back at the young zealot and give him a smile that is all teeth. "No, thank you," I say, my voice ringing out, clear and carrying in the solemn atmosphere. "I've found your Vrakan delicacies to be a bit of an acquired taste." I run my tongue over the iron of my own shackle, a gesture of pure, calculated insolence. "Honestly," I declare to the room at large, "chains taste better than wine." A split second of pure, uncomprehending silence is followed by an explosion of sound. Several of the younger, more rebellious nobles burst into sharp, barking laughs. The sound is a shocking, profane intrusion, and it is beautiful. But the laughter is quickly drowned out by a wave of furious, hissing outrage from the old guard. They are on their feet, their faces masks of pure, venomous fury, their fists clenched. Lady Nisera's voice cuts through the chaos, sharp and cold as a shard of ice. "She dishonours us!" she shrieks, pointing a trembling, accusatory finger at me. "She stands in our most sacred hall, a guest by the Warlord's own mercy, and she mocks our rights. She mocks our goddess. She must be silenced." The hall erupts into a cacophony of shouts, the peace of the vigil utterly shattered. Arik's hand closes over my arm like a vice, his body a tense living shield as the noble's rage turns into a palpable physical threat. I have taken their solemn party and turned it into a bar fight, and I have never felt more alive. Before the chaos can escalate into actual violence, Queen Selene moves. She descends from the dais, not with the anger of a ruler whose feast has been disrupted, but with a strange, serene calm that is a force of its own. The crowd parts before her, their shouts dying down to angry mutters as she approaches. She stops before Nisera, her gaze cool and unwavering. "She dishonours nothing, Lady Nisera," Solène says, her voice quiet but firm, carrying an authority that has little to do with her husband's power. She speaks the truth of her own experience. a truth we, in our comfort, have forgotten. Solène turns her gaze from Nicera to the rest of the assembly, her eyes sweeping over the angry, confused faces. We offer her a goblet of community, but her wrists are still bound by the chains of our judgment. She continues, her voice rising, becoming a proclamation. Her words are not mockery. They are a testament to the very endurance we are meant to be celebrating tonight. It is a masterful move. She has taken my crude, cynical insult and spun it into a noble, philosophical statement. She has reframed my defiance as proof that humans are not weak, that they can endure the chains of hardship and still have a voice. I stare at her, a grudging, astonished respect dawning in my mind. She is not a songbird. She is a serpent, just as cunning as the rest of them, but her venom is a different kind of medicine. Her defiance is not a flaw, Solène concludes, her gaze finally landing on me, a silent, powerful acknowledgement passing between us. It is her strength, and it is a strength we would do well to respect, not silence. Her words fall into the stunned hall, not quite extinguishing the noble's anger, but certainly confusing it, robbing it of its simple, righteous fury. She has not just saved me from being torn apart. She has turned me into a hero. The irony is so thick I could choke on it. Solène returns to the dais, leaving a tense, unsettled quiet in her wake. The feast continues, but the energy in the room has been irrevocably altered. I am no longer an invisible prop. I am the centre of 100 conflicting stares, a symbol whose meaning is now up for debate. I can feel the pure, murderous hatred from Nicera and her faction, but I can also feel a new, curious respect from some of the younger nobles. It is a dangerous, exhilarating, and deeply exhausting position to be in. I risk a glance up at Arik. He is staring straight ahead, his face a hard mask of carved stone, but I am close enough to see the frantic, violent war being waged in his eyes. He is furious. My outburst was an act of pure, undisciplined chaos, an insult to the order and control he embodies. It was another mark against his honour, another public display of his failure to control me. But as a Vrakan noble from Nicera's faction takes a menacing step toward us, I see Arik's body shift, a subtle, almost imperceptible movement that places him more squarely in front of me. His hand, which had been clenched in a fist at his side, now rests on the hilt of his sword. He is furious with me, but he is protective of me. The two conflicting instincts are tearing him apart, and the sight of his internal battle is a strange, heady sort of victory. As if to punctuate the chaotic, uncertain mood of the evening, a hush falls over the hall. A new sound has begun, a soft, whispering hiss from high above snow. It begins to drift down through the high vents, the delicate flakes catching the candlelight like a shower of diamonds. A collective gasp ripples through the assembly, their eyes turning upward. Is it a blessing on the Queen's words, a sign of the goddess's approval? Or is it a curse, a cold portent of the winter that is about to fall on their house? No one knows. And in the uncertain, fearful silence, I feel the ghost of a real smile touch my lips.
Chapter 14. Arik. The silent hour descends upon the great hall once more, a thick, suffocating blanket of darkness and forced piety. The last candle is extinguished, and 1,000 Frickin fall into a collective, meditative hush. For me, it is not a holy silence. It is a void, a black, empty space that my mind immediately tries to fill with the ghosts of my past. I stand rigid, a statue of black iron, every muscle coiled tight, hyper-aware of the small, warm presence of the woman shackled to my wrist. I expect her to whisper another joke, another sarcastic barb to prick the balloon of this solemn rite. But the silence stretches, and she remains quiet. The sheer weight of the absolute stillness seems to be affecting even her. When she finally speaks, her voice is a low, serious murmur stripped of its usual mockery. "What do you hear in all this quiet, enforcer?" she whispers, her breath a ghost against my ear. "When all the shouting is done, what's left?" The question is not a taunt. It is a genuine inquiry, a quiet probe into the heart of the monster she is chained to. I should ignore her. I should command her to be silent. But in the vast, anonymous dark, surrounded by the hollow performance of a faith I do not feel, her quiet question demands an honest answer. "I do not hear a goddess," I say, my voice dropping to a rough, gravelly rasp I barely recognize as my own. "I do not hear truth, or the whispers of my own soul." I take a ragged breath, the confession a poison I have held in for centuries. "I hear screams," I whisper into the darkness, "the echoes of every life I have ever taken, the gurgle of a dark elven scout whose throat I slit, the final surprised gasp of a traitor I threw from the high battlements. They are the only choir that sings for me in the silence. My confession hangs in the air between us, a raw, ugly, and undeniable truth. I've given her the heaviest stone from my soul, the source of the cold, hard discipline I've built my life upon. I expect her to recoil, to be horrified, to use this vulnerability against me. Instead, she is silent for a long, long time, the only sound the soft, rhythmic hiss of the snow still falling through the high vents. When she speaks again, her voice is a faint, ghostly whisper, filled not with horror, but with a strange, hollow echo of her own. "I don't hear screams," she says. "When it's this quiet, all I hear is the sound of my own stomach, the slow, grinding, scraping sound of hunger." Her words paint a picture of a different kind of horror, not the sharp, violent end of a battlefield, but the slow, quiet, agonizing death of starvation. She is telling me of a childhood spent in silence, hiding, waiting for the gnawing emptiness inside her to either be filled or to finally consume her. "Silence reminds me of being alone," she whispers, and I hear the true, breakable fragility beneath the layers of her street rat defiance. And being alone means you're starving, or you're about to be. In that moment, in the absolute, shared darkness, we are not Vraken and human. We are not enforcer and prisoner. We are just two survivors, two creatures who have been forged in the crucible of different but equally brutal silences. An unspoken, profound understanding passes between us, a recognition of the scars we both carry. The tension that crackles between us is no longer just anger or defiance. It is the dangerous magnetic pull of two broken pieces that almost impossibly fit together. And it is a pull I no longer have the strength or the will to resist. I turn to her in the darkness, my movement a surrender. I find her face with my hands, my calloused fingers clumsy against the soft skin of her cheeks. Her breath hitches, a small, sharp sound in the quiet, but she does not pull away. She leans into my touch, a silent, mutual consent. Then I kiss her. It is not the savage, punishing kiss from the tunnel. It is a kiss of raw, desperate, and terrifying vulnerability. It is a search for solace, a desperate attempt to drown out the screams and the hunger with the simple, overwhelming truth of another living soul. She kisses me back with the same desperate honesty, her hands coming up to grip my arms, her body pressing against mine. The clinking of our chain is a soft, metallic heartbeat in the silence, the only witness to our shared, fragile truce. We break apart, both of us trembling, our ragged breaths mingling in the cold air. The space between us is no longer a battlefield. It is a sanctuary, a temporary peace we've carved out of the darkness. I rest my forehead against hers, the admission tearing itself from my soul before I can stop it. "If these chains bind me to you," I whisper, my voice a raw, broken thing, "then I will bear them. It is the closest I can come to saying her name. It is the truest vow I've ever made." Before she can answer, a new sound shatters our fragile peace. It is not a whisper or a breath. It is a high-pitched, groaning shriek of tortured metal from high above, a sound of catastrophic failure that echoes through the very stone beneath our feet. The sabotage. It is happening. The shriek of metal is followed by a sound like thunder, a deafening, echoing crack that shakes the entire cavern. Dust and small fragments of stone begin to rain down from the ceiling. The great chains of night, the massive structure of iron and crystal hanging directly over our heads, is breaking apart. Chaos erupts. The sacred silence is shattered by a wave of pure panicked screaming as 1,000 Vraken realize they are trapped in a deathfall. My warrior's instincts take over, overriding all thought, all emotion. My world narrows to a single primal directive. Protect her. I do not think I act. Down! I roar, shoving her hard toward the floor. I throw my own body over hers, my heavy armor a shield of black iron, my arms a cage of protection around her head. I am a mountain, a living wall between her and the coming apocalypse. I brace myself, my muscles screaming with the tension of the expected impact. It comes with a sound that is beyond sound, a physical concussion that shakes the very foundations of the world. A massive section of the chain, a length of iron links as thick as my arm and heavy, sharp-edged crystals, crashes down onto my back. The impact is a pure, white-hot agony, a brutal, crushing force that drives the air from my lungs and sends a spray of shattered light through my vision. I feel a sharp, searing pain as one of the crystal shards slices through a weak point in my shoulder plate, digging deep into the flesh beneath. But I do not move. I hold my position, my body an unbroken shield, my will a fortress of pure, focused resolve. The roar of the collapse continues around us, but in the small, dark space beneath my body, she is safe. I grunt in pain, the taste of my own blood sharp in my mouth, but I am unbroken.
From the depths of the darkness of Prothika,
Or clawing up from the realms of fantasy,
come the most fearsome beasts you have ever seen.
these monsters are done watching from the shadows.
Now, as they step into the light, something unexpected grips them.
Something even they can't fight off.
Love,
Vampires,
demons,
dark elves,
gods.
minotaurs, creatures of light and dark.
They will protect their mates.
Do whatever needs to be done.
Morally grey heroes who will burn the world to protect the women who love them.
10 audiobooks,
Fall into over 60 hours of fantasy romance.
20 ebooks,
Over 1 million words of these brutes who will protect their women.
even if they might destroy themselves in the process.
Get the immersive Prothika Fantasy Romance Bundle.
For 80% off, right now, dive into Prothika at a once-in-a-lifetime discount.
The first bundle to offer both ebooks and audiobooks on worldsofprothika.com. Prothika's magic is eternal, and this romantasy bundle will make it endless. Chapter 15. Arizel. The world returns in a shower of dust and the screams of the terrified. The thunder of the collapse has faded, leaving a ringing in my ears and the heavy, oppressive weight of Arik's body pinning me to the floor. He is a mountain of iron and flesh, and he is not moved. For a terrifying, heart-stopping moment, I think he is dead. Panic, cold and sharp, lances through me. Arik? I choke out, my voice a strangled whisper in the dusty darkness. He groans, a low, pained sound, and the mountain shifts. He pushes himself up, his movements slow and laboured. As he moves off me, I see it. A massive, jagged shard of crystal is embedded in the back of his shoulder plate, the black iron around it spiderwebbed with cracks. Dark, viscous blood is welling up from the wound, a shocking splash of crimson against his pale skin. The hall is a scene of pure chaos. Vraken are screaming, running, their elegant feast turned into a battlefield of overturned tables and fallen debris. But my world has narrowed to the sight of his blood. He saved me. The monster, the enforcer, the male who has been my tormentor and my keeper, threw himself in front of falling stone to save my life. Without a thought, I am on my feet. I grab the chain, but this time it is not a gesture of defiance. It is one of support. "Lean on me," I command. He looks at me, his deep crimson eyes clouded with pain, and for a moment his pride wars with his injury. With a grunt, he gives in. We are a strange, broken pair as we move through the chaos, him bleeding, me supporting him. The chain between us is no longer a leash, but a lifeline. The nobles stare at us, their faces a mixture of shock, fear, and a new, dawning awe. We reach his chambers, and the moment the door booms shut behind us, his strength gives out. He stumbles, nearly collapsing, and I guide him to the simple cot against the wall. He sinks onto it, his head bowed, his breath coming in ragged, painful gasps. The shard of crystal is still embedded in his shoulder, a grotesque, glittering monument to his sacrifice. "Let me see," I say, my voice soft. "Leave it," he growls, his voice tight with pain. "It is nothing." "It is not nothing," I counter, my voice sharp. "It's a piece of the ceiling, and unless you want to lose the use of that arm, it needs to come out." He glares at me, a flash of his old stubborn pride in his eyes. But there is no heat in it. He is wounded, and we both know it. With a sigh that is more like a pained hiss, he relents, allowing me to move behind him. My hands are surprisingly steady as I grip the edges of the crystal shard. It is slick with his blood and lodged deep in the wound. "This is going to hurt," I whisper. "Just do it," he grinds out between clenched teeth. I pull. The sound is a sickening, wet tear, and he lets out a low, guttural roar of pure animal pain that vibrates through my entire body. The shard comes free, and a fresh torrent of blood follows it. I press a clean strip of cloth from his wash basin against the wound, my other hand resting on his uninjured shoulder to steady him, to steady myself. The enforced proximity is a raw, shocking intimacy, my hands on his bare skin, his blood on my fingers, the air permeated with the scent of his pain. He is a furnace of heat, his skin radiating a warmth that has very little to do with the cavern's chill. I can feel the tense, coiled power in the muscles of his back, the tremor of pain that runs through him as I apply pressure to the wound. The silence in the room is a heavy, charged thing, filled with the unspoken truth of what just happened between us, both in the tunnel and in the great hall. "Why?" I whisper, my voice barely audible. "Why did you do it?" "It is my duty," he says, his voice a low, rough rasp. "To protect the symbols of the Warlord's justice. You are a symbol." It is a lie, a pathetic, transparent attempt to rebuild the walls I have spent the last few days tearing down. He did not shield a symbol, he shielded me. And the fury that rises in me is not born of irritation or defiance, but of a strange, fierce disappointment. "Liar!" I hiss, my voice a venomous whisper in his ear. "You are the worst liar in this entire mountain." He flinches, not from the pain of his wound, but from the sting of my words. He tries to turn, to face me, but I hold him still, my hand firm on his good shoulder. "You want to be a monster so badly, don't you?" I continue, my own pain, my own past, my own anger, bleeding into my voice. "It's easier that way. If you're just a monster, you don't have to feel anything. You don't have to be afraid. I don't know why I'm saying it. I just know that I need him to see the truth. I need him to see himself." He finally turns, his strength easily overpowering my own, his crimson eyes blazing with a raw, wounded fury. He grabs me, his uninjured arm a band of iron around my waist, and pulls me onto his lap, his mouth crashing down on mine. The kiss is a storm of rage and pain and a desperate, undeniable surrender.
As much as Samara and I want to finish what these two characters have started, it looks like this chapter is about to get too hot for this platform to handle.
Unfortunately, we have to pause here because their guidelines won't allow us to reveal the spiciest details.
To keep bringing you these free audiobooks, we have to follow their rules.
But don't worry. You can experience the full, unabridged version over at worldsofprothika.com, where the boundaries of passion and fantasy collide.
Use code YouTube30 for 30% off any of our unabridged audiobooks set in the rich and immersive worlds of Prothika.
Prothika's magic is eternal.
With these scenes, it will be unforgettable.
Don't leave me, I whisper. The fire in the hearth has burned down to glowing embers, and the room is filled with a soft, quiet peace. He lies perfectly still on me, his eyes closed, but I know he is not asleep. He is in that quiet, guarded space that lies somewhere between vigilance and vulnerability. I look at his face in the soft, dying light of the fire, at the harsh lines softened by a weary peace, and the last of my fear, the last of my anger, simply melts away. You're not a monster, I whisper into the quiet of the room. His eyes snap open, his crimson gaze fixing on me with a raw, startled intensity. The hard, cold fury, the disciplined control, the cynical disdain, it all recedes, replaced by a flicker of pure, unguarded vulnerability. For a second his eyes soften, and so does my heart.
Chapter 16. Auric. The fragile peace of the morning is shattered by a summons. Not a quiet request from a sentinel, but a roar from the Warlord himself that echoes from the council chambers. I leave Arizelle in my quarters, the chain looped through the wall ring. A silent, necessary precaution. Her eyes follow me as I leave, a strange, unreadable mixture of concern and calculation. I find Drazian in a state of cold, killing rage. The unconscious saboteur we captured in the tunnels has awoken and has confirmed our fears. Lord Castan, driven by a fanatical loyalty to Sorexa, is the mastermind behind the recent chaos he is not hiding. He's in the lower training yards right now, openly rallying other traditionalist warriors to his cause, vowing to spill blood at the final vigil to cleanse the goddess's altar. It represents open rebellion. This ends now, Drazian snarls, his voice a low, dangerous growl. This is not a political debate. This is a disease, and it must be purged. He turns his burning gaze on me. His order is simple, brutal, and absolute. Take him, Drazian commands. Take the bastard in front of his followers, in front of anyone who will watch. I do not want him dead. I want him broken. I want his men scattered, and I want his name to become a cautionary tale. It will be done, my lord, I say, the words sounding like a familiar, comforting vow. This is a language I understand. This is a problem I know how to solve. I turn to leave, my mind already running through the tactical approach, but Drazian's voice stops me at the door. And Auric, he says, his voice dropping to a near whisper. Take your shadow with you. Let them see what a bond of the new age truly looks like. The lower training yards are a wide, sand-floored grotto designed for live steel combat. Castan stands on a raised platform, his voice a shrill, fanatical cry as he preaches to a gathered crowd of 24 hardened traditionalist warriors. He speaks of Sorexa, of the true ways, of the honor that has been stolen from them by human pets and a weakened warlord. At his side, standing like a loyal hound, Lord Kieran, his hand resting on the pommel of his axe, his eyes burning with a zealot's fire. Then Castan sees me. I walk out of the shadows and into the center of the yard, the clinking of the chain a deliberate, insulting announcement of my arrival. Arizelle is at my side, her expression a mask of cold, watchful calm. Castan's face twists into a sneer of pure, triumphant hatred. Behold, he cries to his followers, the enforcer, the warlord's great beast, brought to heel by a human. This is the weakness that rules us. His men roar with laughter, their confidence bolstered by my apparent handicap. Castan draws his blade, a long, elegant dueling sword ill-suited for his clumsy grip. He leaps down from the platform, his movements filled with a righteous fury that makes him sloppy. "I will cut you free from your leash, Auric," he snarls, "and then I will cut her throat with your own blade." He charges. The duel is an insult to the art of combat. His fury makes him predictable, his swings wide and telegraphed. I meet his every attack with a contemptuous, almost lazy parry, my own sword a blur of efficient, brutal economy. I humiliate him, and then, when he is tired, bleeding, and gasping for air, I end it. I sidestep his final, desperate lunge, hook my leg behind his, and send him crashing to the sand. Before he can rise, my boot is on his sword arm, and with a single sharp application of pressure, I break the bone with a sound like a branch snapping, a clean, satisfying crack that echoes in the sudden silence of the yard. Gaston's scream of pure, unadulterated agony is the signal. His followers, their confidence shattered by their leader's swift, brutal defeat, stand frozen for a stunned heartbeat. But Kieran is not stunned. He is ignited. "For Gaston!" he roars, his voice a raw, grief-stricken bellow of pure rage. "For the true queen! For Syrexa!" He leaps from the platform, his war axe held high, and the rest of Gaston's men let out a collective roar and charge as one. They are a disorganized mob, but they are a mob of 24 trained Vrakan warriors, and I am a single male chained to a human. The odds are not in my favor. The first two come at me, their blades a blur. I meet them, my own sword a whirlwind of black iron, my movements economical, lethal. I kill the first with a thrust to the throat, cripple the second with a cut to his leg, but I am immediately swarmed by 3 more. The chain is a constant, dangerous liability, limiting my footwork, pulling me off balance. A large, brutish warrior, seeing his opportunity, ignores me completely. He lunges for Aracel, his blade held high, his intent clear, to take the hostage, to use my weakness against me. "Auric!" she shouts, not a scream of fear, but a sharp, urgent command. She does not run. She does not cower. She plants her feet, and as the warrior brings his sword down in a killing blow, she yanks on the chain with a sudden, violent force. The pull is not backward, but sideways, and it is a move I am completely unprepared for. It rips me from my own fight, pulling me stumbling into the path of her attacker. My armored shoulder crashes into his chest, sending him sprawling. Before he can recover, Aracel is on him. She wraps the length of the chain around his throat, plants her boot in the center of his back for leverage, and pulls. The Vrakan chokes, his hands clawing uselessly at the iron links cutting into his neck. The sight of the human, my prisoner, efficiently strangling a Vrakan warrior twice her size with the very chain of her captivity, gives the remaining attackers a moment of pause. It is all the opening I need. But the main threat is not the disorganized mob. It is Kieran. He is a berserker, a whirlwind of savage, undisciplined blows, his axe a blur of deadly iron. He carves a path through the lesser combatants, his eyes fixed on me with a look of murderous fanaticism. "I will send your corrupted soul to the goddess myself, traitor!" he bellows, charging me. I meet his charge, our blades crashing together in a shower of sparks that illuminates his hate-filled face. He is strong, his rage giving him a brutal, unpredictable power that Gaston lacked. As we trade blows, a warrior slips past my guard, his dagger aimed at my unarmored side. Before I can pivot, the chain snaps taut, and I feel a sudden jarring weight against my back. Aracel. She has thrown herself against me, her small body a living shield, the dagger sinking into the thick leather of her coat instead of my flesh. The sight of her taking a blow meant for me ignites a fire in my soul so hot, it burns away all thought, all discipline. With a roar, I shove Kieran back, spin, and cut down the dagger-wielding attacker in a single brutal motion. I turn back to Kieran just as he swings his axe in a wide, decapitating arc. I duck under the blow and drive my blade deep into his thigh. He screams, a sound of pure agony, and stumbles back, his leg giving out from under him. The remaining rebels, seeing him fall, finally break and flee. Kieran glares at me, clutching his bleeding leg, his face a twisted mask of pure, unadulterated hatred. Before I can deliver the killing blow, he scrambles backward, dragging himself into the mouth of a dark service tunnel. "This is not over, Auric," he roars, his voice echoing from the darkness. "For Syrexa, I will see you both burn." He disappears into the gloom, leaving only his promise of vengeance hanging in the air. We are left in the middle of the carnage, a crowd of nobles now gathered, staring at us with unsettled but deeply impressed awe.
Chapter 17. Arizel. The summons to the council chamber feels less like an invitation and more like being led to my own trial. Again. The atmosphere in the great hall is like a powder keg. The news of Castan's failed rebellion in the training yard has spread, and the court is divided into two snarling camps. Those who see it as a necessary quelling of a traitor, and those who see it as a brutal suppression of their true faith. And I, chained to the Warlord's enforcer, am standing right in the middle of the blast zone. Auric is a silent, coiled spring of violence beside me, his wounded shoulder a stark reminder of the battle we shared. The respect the nobles showed us in the aftermath of the fight has curdled overnight into fear and resentment. We are no longer a novelty, we are a weapon, and both sides are trying to figure out how to aim us. Lord Vaynar is the first to speak, his voice a smooth, oily poison in the tense silence. He does not speak of his failed co-conspirator, Castan. He is too clever for that. Instead, he speaks of the chaos, the broken traditions, and the sacrilege of the failed vigil, and he lays the blame for all of it at my feet. "We have seen the fruits of this new age," he proclaims, his gaze sweeping over the assembled nobles before landing on me with a look of theatrical contempt. "We have seen our sacred halls desecrated by sabotage, our markets turned into brawling grounds, our holy rites shattered by violence and bloodshed, and at the centre of it all, this constant, this catalyst of chaos." He points a long, pale finger at me. "This human," he spits the word like a curse. "She is a disease, a walking plague upon our house. She is the living proof that their kind cannot be tamed, cannot be civilized. They bring only ruin. He is not just accusing me of a crime. He is putting my entire species on trial, and he is making me the star witness for the prosecution." Drazian's face is a mask of thunderous rage, but before he can speak, Vaynar turns his attack on him. "You asked for a lesson in community, my lord," Vaynar says, his voice dripping with false deference. "And she has given us one. She has taught us that when you chain a wolf, you do not get a dog. You simply get a wolf on a chain. The challenge is clear. My continued defiance is being framed as the failure of Drazian's new, merciful justice." The silence in the hall is a heavy, waiting thing. Every eye is on me. They expect me to cower, to weep, to prove Vaynar right. I feel Aric's body tense beside me, a low growl rumbling in his chest. But this is not his fight to win. It is mine. I take a single step forward, the clink of my chain a sharp, deliberate sound in the hush. I look at Vaynar, at his smug, self-satisfied face, and I feel not fear, but a profound, weary contempt. "He is right," I say, my voice clear and carrying. A shocked murmur ripples through the hall. "I am a wolf, and you live in a house of sticks." I lift my shackled wrist, holding it high for all to see. "You talk of chains, Lord Vaynar," I continue, my voice gaining a cold, hard edge. "You are obsessed with them. You hang them from your ceilings, you use them to bind your prisoners, you whisper of their power to restore your traditions. But you do not understand the first thing about them." I let my gaze sweep over the faces of the traditionalist nobles, the ones who cling to their fear and their hatred like a holy text. "Your chains break because you forged them with fear," I say, the words becoming a final, damning verdict. "And fear is a brittle metal." My words fall into the hall like a dropped blade. For a single, stunned heartbeat, there is absolute silence. Suddenly the room fractures. A loud, cheering roar erupts from the younger nobles. the ones who have been watching this new age with a mixture of fear and hope. It is a sound of pure, cathartic release, a cheer for a truth they have felt but never dared to speak. It is a sound of rebellion. But an equally loud wave of furious, hissing outrage answers it from the old guard. They are on their feet, their faces contorted with rage, their hands on the hilts of their swords. Nisera is shrieking something about sacrilege, her voice a sharp, ugly sound. The hall has split in two, the polite fiction of their unified court shattered beyond repair. It is a civil war, declared not with a sword, but with a sentence. I stand in the eye of the storm, my heart hammering a wild, triumphant rhythm against my ribs. I look at Arik. He is staring at me, his blazing eyes wide with a look of pure, unadulterated shock. He has witnessed my defiance, my sarcasm, my desperate will to survive. But he has never witnessed this. He has never seen me wield words as a weapon capable of splitting his entire world in two. He is looking at me not as a prisoner, not as a lover, but as a political force he does not understand and cannot control. The knowledge is a heady, dangerous wine. It is Selene who seizes the moment, her political instincts as sharp as any blade. She rises, her hands held up for quiet, her voice a calm, steady anchor in the chaotic storm. The scribe of the new dawn speaks the truth, she declares, her voice ringing with an authority that silences the shouts. Her use of Isolde's title is a deliberate, strategic move. She has shown us that true strength is not in the iron of our chains, but in the will of those who are bound by them. She looks directly at Isolde, who is sitting at the scribe's table, her pen flying across the parchment. "Let it be recorded," Selene commands. "Let the words of Aricel be entered into the history of this day. Let them serve as the first tenet of the new age. We will not forge our bonds with fear." It is a masterful stroke. She has taken my cynical, angry outburst and canonized it. She has transformed me from a rebellious prisoner into a founding philosopher. I am no longer just a symbol. I am a doctrine. The traditionalists are left sputtering, their rage impotent, outmaneuvered by a queen who is better at this game than all of them combined. I see Isolde give me a small, proud and slightly terrified smile from across the room. The council is dismissed in the tense, unsettled aftermath. Drausian and Selene have won the public battle, but the war is far from over. As the nobles begin to file out of the hall, their factions separating like oil and water, I see Lucerys move with a quiet, deliberate grace. He intercepts Lord Vanar near a shadowy archway, his body a subtle but unbreachable wall blocking the older noble's path. I am too far away to hear their words, but I can read the exchange in their postures. Lucerys is calm, his expression one of cold, polite menace. Vanar is posturing, his face a cold mask of arrogant dismissal. But I can see the flicker of fear in his eyes. Lucerys is no longer the conflicted, guilt-ridden male from the last solstice. He is a power in his own right, a quiet predator who has finally chosen his side. Lucerys leans in, his voice a low, private whisper that is meant only for Vanar, but his final words are a cold, clear promise that I can read on his lips. Syrexa's name won't save you. Vanar pales, his arrogant mask crumbling for a mere fraction of a second, revealing the terrified, cornered animal beneath. He gives a stiff, jerky nod and practically flees from the hall. Lucerys watches him go, his expression grim. Then, his gaze lifts and meets mine from across the chamber. It is a look of shared understanding, a silent acknowledgement from one of the Warlord's new weapons to another. The battle for the soul of this city is not just being fought in the open anymore. It is being fought in the shadows.
Escape this world and step into one where romance and magic intertwine across realms, with stories that are not just standalone tales, but part of a vast, interconnected universe.
Imagine not just one, but 100 stories, where characters, destinies, and legends cross paths in unexpected ways.
100 audiobooks from the Romantasy 100 book bundle.
These aren't just isolated stories. They share themes, worlds, and threads that make every journey feel part of something grander.
Fated lovers, ancient prophecies, and the delicate balance between power and passion.
Get all of these stories today for a mind-blowing 90% off. That's right, 100 audiobooks for the price of 10.
800 hours of audio where these alpha males prove just how puny the human men of Prathika are. 12 complete series where they show their human women what they've been missing and more.
One-time purchase, lifetime access to a universe of interconnected magic and romance.
Prathika's magic is eternal. With the Romantasy 100 book bundle, your pleasure will be too. Chapter 18. Arik. The final rite of the solstice is the longest night vigil. It is an ancient tradition, a singular honor bestowed upon the Warlord's most trusted warrior for 12 hours, from dusk until the first hint of dawn. That warrior stands a solitary watch in the Great Hall, a silent, unmoving sentinel, a symbol of the strength that guards the Vrakan people through the darkest point of the year. This year the honor has been given to me, and it is a cruel, exquisite form of torture. The great iron doors of the hall boom shut, the sound a final, echoing note of doom. The last of the acolytes has gone. The last torch extinguished, I am left in a darkness so absolute, it feels like a physical substance, a thick, black liquid filling my lungs. And I am not alone. Chained to my wrist is the source of my torment, the architect of my public humiliation, and the woman who has somehow become the most dangerous and vital part of my world. Drazian's order was clear. She is to be my shadow for the duration of the solstice. There are no exceptions. We are locked in this vast, sacred space together, a warrior and his prisoner, bound by a chain of iron. The silence is profound, a heavy, waiting thing. For the first hour, we do not speak. I stand at my post near the edge of the reflection pool, a statue of discipline, my senses on high alert. I can hear the soft, almost inaudible sound of her breathing, the faint rustle of her tunic as she shifts her weight on the cold stone floor. She's a constant, living distraction, a warm, breathing presence that pulls at my focus, a flaw in the perfect, cold silence of my duty. I've stood countless vigils in my life, but I have never felt less at peace. Another hour passes. The silence stretches, becoming a shared, intimate space. The walls I have built around myself, the cold, hard discipline of the enforcer, begin to feel thin, brittle. In the darkness, stripped of our roles, of the watching eyes of the court, we are something else. We are just a man and a woman, bound together, surrounded by the ghosts of 1,000 years of history. "Are you afraid of it?" she asks, her voice a soft, quiet thing in the vast darkness, devoid of her usual sarcasm. The silence. "I'm not afraid of anything," I say, the words an old, familiar lie. "Liar," she whispers, and there is no heat in it, only a quiet, sad understanding. "You told me what you hear. The screams." She's right. The ghosts are particularly loud tonight, their phantom voices echoing in the great empty hall. I can hear the gurgle of the dark elven scout, the final shocked gasp of the traitor. They are my constant companions, the chorus of my long, bloody life. "What about you?" I ask, my voice a rough, unused thing. "The hunger, do you hear it now?" She is quiet for a long, long time. "No," she says softly. "My belly is full. For the first time in a long time, the silence is just quiet." She pauses, and I feel a slight tug on the chain as she shifts closer. Now I'm more afraid of what comes after, when the sun rises and the feast is over, when the chain comes off. She is afraid of being alone again, afraid of being hungry again. Her confession is a raw, vulnerable thing, a truth she has never shared with anyone, and she has shared it with me. In the darkness, she has shown me her own ghosts, and I realize they are just as loud as mine. Her confession is a key, unlocking the final, rusted gate of my own control. The screams of my past, the fury of my present, the terrifying uncertainty of my future, it all collapses, replaced by a single overwhelming need. A need to silence her fears, to anchor her in the storm of my own soul. I turn from my post, a warrior abandoning his watch, and find her in the darkness. The chain guides me, a short, unbreakable line connecting our two solitudes. I crouch before her, my hands finding her face, her cheeks, the soft, vulnerable line of her jaw. She is trembling, not with fear, but with the same raw, desperate need that is coursing through me. Arizel, I whisper, her name a prayer scraped from my throat. She meets it with a look that strips the breath from my lungs. No words, just that gaze, steady, fierce, knowing exactly what I am. When she reaches for me, the world narrows to heat and heartbeat. This scene is about to get too steamy for this platform's comfort. And as much as we'd love to keep going, their guidelines say we need to stop here.
To continue releasing these free audiobooks on this platform, we've got to play by the rules.
The passion doesn't end here.
Visit worldsofprathika.com to hear the full, uncut version of this fantasy romance, and every daring moment that YouTube can't handle.
Use code YouTube30 for 30% off unabridged audiobooks in the Worlds of Prothika.
Don't let YouTube hold you back. Immerse yourself in a world of magic, danger, and unfiltered passion.
Prothika's magic is eternal.
Listen unabridged and you'll never want to go back. Chapter 19. Arizel. The longest night begins not with a scream, but with the soft collective sigh of 1,000 candles being lit. The great hall is transformed from a place of shadows and dread into a strange, beautiful cathedral of flickering light. The air smells like melting wax and pine, the Vracken's attempt at a festive aroma, but beneath it all, I can still smell the cold, hard scent of stone and power. Arik stands beside me, a silent, brooding mountain of black iron, our chain a dark, heavy line between us. We are, once again, a spectacle. Tonight is the apex of the solstice, the culmination of all the new, reformed rites. The central ritual is the chain of night. Great heavy strands of black iron and silver have been hung in long, draping loops across the halls, symbols of the years survived in the darkness. Families and bonded pairs will add a new link, a public declaration of their shared endurance through another year. It is meant to be a symbol of unity, of strength forged together. For me, it is a bitter, beautiful irony. I, the one in actual chains, am forced to watch them celebrate their pretty, symbolic ones. I watch as Vracken and human pairs step forward. I see Isolde and Lucerys, their hands clasped, their expressions serene as they add a gleaming silver link to the chain. I see other, newer pairs, a Vracken guard and a human cook, a noblewoman and a human stable hand, their movements hesitant, but filled with a fragile, determined hope. It is a quiet, powerful display of the change that has taken root in this city. It is a world I am not a part of, a community I am only observing from the outside, a prisoner at the feast. Arik is a statue of perfect discipline beside me, but I can feel the tension radiating from him. This new world of soft sentiment and shared feelings is as alien and uncomfortable for him as it is for me. Just as I am beginning to think we might be allowed to remain as silent, forgotten observers, Drazian's voice booms through the hall. "Let the final link of this night be added," the Warlord declares, his crimson eyes sweeping over the assembly before landing, with deliberate, theatrical weight, directly on us. Let it be a symbol, not just of a year survived, but of a new kind of strength, forged in the most unlikely of bonds. A murmur ripples through the crowd. He is not just inviting us to participate. He is putting us on a stage. He is taking the whispers and the legends, the tale of the chain-bound lovers, and he is canonizing it, turning our messy, violent and desperate story into a tool of statecraft. He is using us, using the truth of what we have become, to sell his new world to his skeptical court. I feel a surge of hot, defiant anger, but it is quickly followed by a grim, weary understanding. This is how the powerful rule. They do not just command, they create stories. Arik, Arizel, Drazian commands. Step forward. Every eye in the hall is on us as we move toward the central chain, the links of our own bond clinking softly with every step. An acolyte approaches, holding a single unadorned link of black iron and a heavy hammer on a velvet cushion. This is not a request. It is a command performance. I look up at Arik, and I see a storm of pure, violent rage in his eyes. He is a private, disciplined male, and his most profound personal evolution is being turned into a public spectacle for the benefit of his warlord's political agenda. He hates this more than he has hated anything else. We stand before the great, glittering chain. The air is heavy with the weight of 1,000 stairs. This is a test, and not just of our obedience, it is a test of our bond. The entire court is watching to see how the monster and his pet will perform this delicate ritual of unity. Arik's fury is a palpable, killing heat, but he embodies absolute duty. He will not defy his warlord in public. He takes the heavy iron link from the cushion, his movements stiff and controlled. Then he turns to me. I expect him to simply complete the task himself, to get this humiliation over with as quickly as possible. But he does not. He holds the link out, his gaze locking with mine. In his eyes, I see not just his rage at the warlord, but a silent, raw question directed at me. What is this? What are we? He is asking me to choose here, in front of everyone, what this story will be. Will we be a joke, a warlord's puppets, or will we be something more? I do not take the link from him. Instead, I place my hand over his, my small, scarred fingers covering his massive, gauntleted ones. It is an act of shocking, profound intimacy in the centre of this public display. A collective gasp ripples through the crowd. I feel his hand, which had been as rigid as stone, soften slightly beneath mine. I have given him my answer. We are not his puppets. We are a partnership. He understands. Slowly, deliberately, he moves our joined hands to the end of the great chain. His hand guides mine, his strength a steady, sure force as I pick up the heavy hammer. The hammer is heavy in my hand, but his hand is there, covering mine, his strength making the weight manageable. Together, we hold the new link in place. For a single, breathless moment, we are a perfect tableau, a living symbol of this new, impossible age. The human and the Vraken, the captive and the enforcer, their hands joined in a single, shared purpose. It is a more powerful statement than any speech Drazian could ever make. I lift the hammer, his hand still guiding mine, and with a series of sharp, ringing blows, we hammer the link shut. The sound is a clear, defiant note in the silent hall, a final percussive declaration. It is not the sound of a prison being locked. It is like a new foundation being forged. When it is done, we stand there for a moment longer, our hands still joined. The audacity of the act is not lost on the nobles. The murmurs that spread through the hall are not of mockery or contempt. They are of a stunned, grudging, and deeply unsettled awe. They have just witnessed something they do not understand, a bond that defies all their laws of nature, of predator and prey. Arik finally releases my hand, his touch lingering for a moment too long. He steps back, his face once again a mask of cold, unreadable discipline. But I know that something has irrevocably shifted between us. We have taken the warlord's political theatre, and we have made it our own. We have told our own story, not with words, but with a hammer and a link and a silent shared choice. The chain on my wrist no longer feels like a punishment. It feels like a crown.
Chapter 20. Auric. The final echo of the hammer fades, but the silence that follows is not one of peace. It is a tense, charged quiet, the held breath before a storm. The nobles stare at us, at the new link we forged, their faces a mixture of shock and a new, unsettling respect. Drazian watches from his throne, a flicker of grim satisfaction in his eyes. He got the symbol he wanted, but we gave it a meaning he did not intend. Arizelle stands beside me, her chin held high, the chain on her wrist no longer a mark of shame, but a defiant piece of jewelry. I can feel it in the air, a subtle shift in the current, the low thrum of a conspiracy about to boil over. The public victories we have won, in the training yard, in the council, have not crushed the traditionalists. They have cornered them, and a cornered animal is the most dangerous of all. I scan the crowd, my eyes moving from face to face, hunting for the telltale signs of treachery. A hand resting too close to a hidden blade, a shared glance that lingers a moment too long. Suddenly the world breaks. It starts with a high-pitched, agonized shriek of tortured metal from the adjoining hall, followed by a thunderous, ground-shaking crash. Screams erupt. Before the first echo can fade, another, closer crash answers it from the opposite side of our own hall, as one of the great chains, overloaded with crystal and iron, is ripped from its anchor point and comes down in a devastating avalanche of sound and fury. The sabotage is not a single act. It is a coordinated, catastrophic attack designed to turn this holy rite into a massacre. The lights flicker as falling debris shatters the candles, plunging the hall into a terrifying twilight of chaos and fear. Panic is a tidal wave, a screaming, stampeding flood of rocket nobles trying to flee the carnage. My world narrows to the clean, simple clarity of a battlefield. My sword is in my hand before I have a conscious thought, its familiar weight a solid anchor in the chaos. My first duty is to protect the Warlord, but my first inescapable reality is the woman bound to my wrist. "Stay close!" I roar, the command a useless gesture in the face of the bedlam. Hooded figures emerge from the panicked crowd, no longer hiding their intent. They are the saboteurs, their faces concealed, their blades drawn. They are not just breaking the chains, they are now moving to cut down the reformist nobles in the ensuing confusion. Two of them spot me, a prime target, the Warlord's enforcer, and they come at me, their movements swift and coordinated. I meet the first one, my blade a blur of black iron, a savage ringing parry that sends a shower of sparks into the gloom. The chain is an immediate, infuriating liability. It yanks on my arm, throwing my counterattack off balance. Arizelle is scrambling behind me, trying to stay out of my way, but the short length of our tether turns the deadly dance of combat into a clumsy, three-legged shuffle. I killed the first attacker with a brutal thrust to the gut, but the second one is already on me, his blade scraping along my pauldron. He's trying to use the chain to get inside my guard, to use my connection to her as a weapon against me. I shove him back, my frustration a hot, burning fire in my throat. We are not a unit. We are a liability, a monster with its leg caught in a trap. "Behind you!" Arizelle screams, her voice a sharp, clear note in the cacophony of battle. Even as I spin to meet the new threat, I know I am too late. A third saboteur, a massive brute of a Fracken, is bringing a heavy war axe down in an arc that my blade will never be able to intercept. This is the end. A stupid, clumsy death because I'm shackled to a human. But Arizelle does not just shout a warning. She acts. Instead of pulling away, she throws her entire weight forward, rushing towards me, towards the fight. The sudden slack in the chain gives me a precious few inches of movement. It is not enough to block the axe, but it is enough to change my posture, to turn a killing blow into a glancing one. The axe head screams down the side of my armor, the impact a jarring, bone-shaking blow that sends a spray of agony up my wounded arm. The pain is a fire, but the opportunity is a gift. The saboteur is overextended, his weapon caught for a fraction of a second in the plates of my armor. It is the only opening I need. I pivot, my own blade a blur, and I gut him where he stands. As he collapses, I turn back to the second attacker, but he is already on the ground, gasping, the length of our iron chain wrapped around his throat, Arizel's boot planted firmly in the center of his back. She has once again turned her leash into a garrote. She meets my gaze, her eyes wide and fierce with the wild, beautiful light of battle. In that moment, something clicks into place between us. We are not a monster and a captive. We are a weapon, and we have just learned how to kill together. The realization is a lightning strike. We are not a beast with a broken leg. We are a two-headed serpent, and the chain is our spine. I stop trying to fight in spite of her. I start fighting with her. I become the blade, and she becomes the weight, the anchor, the unpredictable counterbalance that turns my every move into a deadly surprise. We are a whirlwind of death in the hall. I'm a storm of parries and thrusts, a wall of impenetrable iron. She is the undertow, using the chain to trip, to strangle, to pull my enemies off balance and into the path of my waiting sword. We move as one, our bodies a single fluid instrument of destruction. The chain is no longer a hindrance, but a conduit for our shared violent purpose. The remaining saboteurs, who had seen me as a compromised, easy target, now stare at us with a dawning, terrified understanding. They are not fighting a chained warrior. They are fighting something new, something they have no name for. The last of them breaks and runs, melting back into the screaming chaos. We are left standing in the center of a circle of our own making, surrounded by the bodies of the fallen. We are breathing heavily, splattered with blood, the chain a dark, wet line connecting us. The large hall is a ruin, the floor littered with the dead and the dying, the pretty, symbolic chains of the New Age, now just a tangled, murderous wreck.
Chapter 21. Arizel. The world comes back into focus one sensation at a time. The ringing in my ears fades to a dull hum, replaced by the distant screams and groans of the wounded. The air is choked with the dust of shattered crystal and pulverized stone, and beneath it all, the hot coppery stench of fresh blood. The great hall is in ruin, a testament to the battle we just survived. We are standing in the center of a circle of bodies, a small bloody island in a sea of chaos. Arik is a mountain of iron beside me, his breathing a low, ragged sound. His blood, a dark, almost black river, is still seeping from the wound in his shoulder, staining his armor and the marble floor beneath us. But he is standing, we are standing, together. The chain that binds us is slick with blood and grime, and for the first time, it feels less like a shackle and more like a part of my own body. Adrenaline is a wild, electric fire in my veins, a heady cocktail of terror and triumph that makes the world feel sharp and dangerously real. The survivors, the nobles and commoners who were not caught in the initial collapse or the ensuing fight, are huddled in the far corners of the hall, staring at us. Their faces are a mixture of shock, terror, and a new, unsettling awe. We are not a joke anymore. We are not a political symbol to be debated. We are a tangible, bloody fact, a creature of violence that they have just seen unleashed. I meet their stares, my chin held high, and I feel a strange, fierce pride. We are the monsters now. Drazian's royal guard begins to move through the wreckage, their movements disciplined and efficient, a stark contrast to the chaos around them. They are restoring order, tending to the wounded, and dragging away the bodies of the dead saboteurs. As the initial shock wears off, the political animals of the court begin to stir, their survival instincts replaced by their more familiar instinct for self-preservation and opportunity. My thief's eyes, trained to watch every angle in a chaotic room, catch a small, telling drama unfold near a fallen pillar. It is Lord Chiron, the zealot, Caston's loyal hound. He is not hiding. He is a whirlwind of righteous fury, his axe rising and falling as he helps the guards secure the area. He roars about traitors and a desecrated hall, his performance of a loyal warrior perfect. He fights with a fearlessness that is shocking, a brutal efficiency that seems at odds with the failed rebellion he was a part of. I watch as he corners a wounded saboteur, one of Caston's men, who is crawling through the debris, trying to escape. The man looks up at Kieran, his face a horrified mask of terror and a flicker of what looks like recognition. He opens his mouth to speak, perhaps to beg, perhaps to bargain. Before he can utter a sound, Kieran brings his axe down in a swift, brutal and utterly final blow. "Die, traitor!" Kieran bellows, for the benefit of the guards nearby. It is a clean, efficient kill. I feel a flicker of surprise, of confusion. Kieran was Caston's shadow. I expected him to have fled or been captured. Instead, he is here, drenched in the blood of his own allies, screaming his loyalty to the very warlord his master sought to overthrow. It makes no sense. He is not a cunning politician like Vaynar. He is a blunt instrument of pure faith. And I realise with a jolt that his faith must not have been in Castan, or even in Syrexa. It must be in the warlord himself. A faith so absolute that the treason of his own comrades has driven him into a fanatical, murderous rage against them. The thought is deeply unsettling. He is not the simple thug I thought he was. He is something far more complicated and far more dangerous. The whispers start again, led, as always, by Lady Nisera. She is not blaming the saboteurs now. Her target has shifted. She moves through a cluster of terrified nobles, her voice a low, conspiratorial hiss. "You see?" she whispers, gesturing toward me with a subtle, venomous flick of her wrist. "This is the chaos they bring. A human witch. She has bewitched him, driven the enforcer mad. This bloodshed. It is all her doing. The rumour is a fire catching in dry grass." The nobles, desperate for a simple explanation for the horror they have just witnessed, seize upon it. Their fearful, uncertain gazes turn on me, their expressions shifting from awe to a new, dangerous suspicion. They are going to blame me. They are going to turn this victory into my execution. I look at Arik. He is watching Nisera, his face a tortured mask of dark, murderous rage. But he is wounded, his focus split. A speech will not work here. Words are useless against this kind of primal, fear-driven hatred. I need a gesture, an undeniable truth that will shatter Nisera's lie. I look at Arik, at his blood-splattered face, at the fierce, protective fire that is still burning in his eyes. He is not bewitched. He is bound to me, and I will not let them use our bond as a weapon against him or against me. With a sudden, decisive movement, I close the space between us. I grab the front of his heavy, blood-slick armour with both hands, the metal cold and hard beneath my fingers. He looks down at me, his expression a mixture of surprise and confusion. "Arizel, what?" he begins, his voice a low growl. I do not let him finish. I use my grip on his armour to pull myself up, and I silence his question with my mouth. I kiss him. It is not the desperate, searching kiss from the tunnel, or the slow, reverent passion from his chambers. This is a raw, savage, and deeply public act of possession. It is a kiss that tastes of blood and dust, and the triumphant, unadulterated truth of our survival. I am not his victim. I am not his pet. I am his partner. And in front of the entire Vraken court, amidst the dead and the dying, I claim him as mine. The hall falls into a profound, stunned silence. The only sound is the distant, mournful drip of water from a shattered ice chain. Every single eye is fixed on us, on the impossible tableau we are creating in the midst of the carnage. I break the kiss, my breath coming in ragged gasps, but I do not release my grip on his armour. I rest my forehead against the cold, hard plate of his chest, a silent, defiant claim. Nisera is sputtering, her face a mask of pure, impotent fury. Her lie has been utterly, catastrophically defeated. No one who saw the raw, honest passion of that kiss could ever believe it was the product of a witch's spell. It was too real, too powerful. I have not just denied her rumour, I have devoured it whole. I lift my head and look past Arik, my gaze finding the high dais, where Drazian and Solène are standing. Drazian's expression is one of grim, calculating appraisal. He is a general, and he has just witnessed an unexpected but brutally effective tactical manoeuvre. He gives a single, almost perceptible nod, a gesture of pure, pragmatic approval. But it is Solène's expression that holds my attention. A slow, brilliant smile is spreading across her face. It is a smile of pure, unadulterated triumph, a look of profound respect and shared understanding from one survivor to another. Then, my eyes find Chiron. He is standing near the edge of the carnage, his heroic performance forgotten. He is staring at us, at our undeniable bond, and his face is a mask of pure, apocalyptic rage. He sees his plan has not just failed, it has backfired, creating a powerful new symbol he cannot control. The look in his eyes is a promise of a final, terrible reckoning.
Chapter 22. Auric. The world narrows to the taste of her, a shocking, impossible flavor of blood, dust, and a fierce, defiant life that is entirely her own. Her kiss is not a plea or a surrender. It is a claim, an act of possession so bold and absolute, it stuns me into a rare, profound silence. When she pulls away, her forehead resting against my chest plate, the great hall is a void, the chaos and the whispers and the pain of my wound all swallowed by the roaring in my own ears. She has taken our messy, violent bond and forged it into a weapon in the middle of the court, and in doing so, has silenced our enemies more effectively than any blade I could wield. I look over her head to the dais, and I see the grim, pragmatic approval on my warlord's face. He sees a victory, a tactical masterstroke that has solidified the legend of the chain-bound lovers into a pillar of his new regime. But I see the cost. My gaze sweeps the ruined hall and finds him. Chiron. He is standing near a fallen pillar, his performance of the loyal warrior forgotten, his face a hot mask of pure, apocalyptic rage. He's not looking at Drazian, not at the dead, not at the chaos. He is staring at us, at the undeniable truth of the bond Arizal has just declared, and in his eyes I see the final, terrible snap of a mind that has been pushed past its breaking point. His plan, his subtle, cunning manipulation, has not just failed, it has backfired, creating a new, powerful symbol for the very cause he sought to destroy. The heroic mask has crumbled, and the true monster is finally revealed. Before my guards can fully restore order, before the wounded can be carried from the hall, Chiron takes center stage. He throws his head back and lets out a raw, grief-stricken scream of pure, undiluted fury, a sound that rips through the cavern and silences every other noise. It is the sound of a zealot whose god has failed him. "This cannot be," he roars, his voice a broken, ragged thing, thick with a madness I have only seen on the bloodiest of battlefields. He stalks into the hall, his axe held loose in his hand, his eyes wild and unfocused. He is no longer a soldier or a noble. He is a force of pure, nihilistic destruction. A strange, crackling energy begins to fill the air, a scent of ozone and something older, something darker. Blue-white lightning, born not of a storm but of some wild, forbidden magic, begins to arc across his body, hissing and spitting in the gloom. He raises his hands to the cavern's dark, unseeing ceiling, his fingers splayed, his body a conduit for the raw, chaotic power he is summoning. He opens his mouth, and the words that come out are not our language. It is an ancient, guttural invocation, a dark prayer to a darker god. "Venta! Turnabeta!" he screams, his voice a thunderclap that shakes the very stones. "Akeldama, hear me! Grant me your rage. Grant me your blood! The answer to his prayer is immediate and catastrophic. The lightning arcing across his body explodes outward, a wave of pure, red-tinged energy that washes over the hall. It is not a physical blast. It is a psychic one, a wave of pure, unadulterated rage that slams into the minds of every Vrakin present. The effect is instantaneous. The remaining traditionalist warriors, the ones who had been standing in sullen, resentful silence, let out a collective, inhuman roar. Their eyes begin to glow with the same unnatural, crimson light that now burns in Kieran's. Their bodies contort, their movements becoming jerky, animalistic. The discipline of the warrior is gone, replaced by the mindless fury of a berserker. This is not a rebellion. It is a plague, a madness. Kieran has not just summoned an army, he has summoned a horde. The true horror, however, comes from the shadows. From every darkened corridor, from the high, shadowed balconies, from alcoves and service tunnels I thought were empty. They come dozens of them. Vrakin I have never seen before, their faces twisted into the same mindless, rabid snarls, their eyes burning with the same unholy light. They are a hidden army, Syrexa's loyalists, who were waiting for this signal, this dark baptism, to begin their final assault. They do not use tactics. They do not use formations. They are a tidal wave of claws and teeth and steel, a mindless, screaming horde that crashes into the thin line of my royal guard. The great hall, already a scene of carnage, becomes a true vision of hell. The civilized veneer of our race is stripped away, leaving only the raw, brutal truth. We are predators, and this is a feeding frenzy. I do not have time to think, to plan. There is only the battle. Back to back! I roar at Arizel. She does not hesitate. She is a warrior now, her fear burned away by the heat of a dozen battles fought at my side. We move as one, our backs pressed together, the chain between us a tight, solid line, a pivot point in a world of chaos. They come at us, their eyes mindless, their movements inhumanly fast. I am a storm of iron, my blade a blur, a whirlwind of death that meets their charge. But for every one I cut down, 2 more take its place. They are tireless, feeling no pain, driven only by the supernatural rage Kieran has gifted them. I feel a sharp, searing pain as a blade slips past my guard and bites deep into my leg. I grunt, stumbling, and in that moment of weakness, one of the berserkers lunges for Arizel. I am too slow, too off balance to stop him, but she is not. She whips our chain, not as a weapon, but as a grappling hook, the iron links catching on his arm and using his own momentum to pull him off balance as he stumbles. She draws a wicked-looking dagger from her boot, a weapon I never knew she had, and drives it into his throat with a vicious Street Fighter's economy. She stands over his body, her chest heaving, her eyes blazing with a fire that matches their own. We are wounded, we are exhausted, and we are surrounded, but we are not broken. Together, we turn to face the endless, screaming horde.
Chapter 23. Arizel. There is no thought, there is no fear, there is only the battle, a chaotic, screaming vortex of blood and steel that has swallowed the world. We are the eye of the storm, Arik and I, a single 2-headed creature of death, bound by a robust length of iron. His sword is a blur, a whirlwind of merciless, efficient destruction. I am the anchor, the serpent, the unpredictable weight that pulls his enemies off balance and into the path of his blade. The berserkers come at us, their eyes glowing with an unholy crimson light, their movements inhumanly fast and jerky. They feel no pain, no fear, only the mindless, magical rage Kieran has poured into them. A blade scrapes along my ribs, a searing line of fire, and I grunt, shoving the pain down into a deep, dark place where it can't touch me. I whip the chain, its heavy links catching a Vrakan across the face with a wet, satisfying crack of bone. We are a symphony of violence. I learn his rhythm, the ebb and flow of his savage dance. I learned to anticipate his movements, to use the chain not just to trip and strangle, but to add momentum to his swing, to pull him back from a blow he cannot see. We are bleeding, we are exhausted, and we are surrounded by an endless, screaming tide of death. But we are not falling. In the heart of this hell, I have never felt more alive. Just as my muscles begin to scream with a fatigue so profound it feels like death itself, a new sound cuts through the chaos. It is the disciplined, war-forged roar of Drazian's royal guard. A wall of black iron and honed steel crashes into the flank of the berserker horde, and the tide of the battle turns in a single bloody heartbeat. The guard are not fighting a disorganized mob. They are a single, lethal weapon, and they cut through the frenzied, mindless warriors with a brutal, terrifying efficiency. The horde fractures, their mindless rage no match for pure, disciplined violence. The battle is not over, but its outcome is no longer in doubt. The chaos begins to resolve itself into a series of smaller, desperate skirmishes. And in the centre of it all, one figure remains, his fury undiminished. Lord Kirin. He stands amidst the carnage, his axe dripping blood, his eyes burning with the fire of a dying star. He sees his army being dismantled, his holy war a failure, and his madness, his grief, his rage, all of it focuses into a single burning point of pure, unadulterated hatred. He turns, and his gaze finds us. He lets out a raw, agonized roar and charges, not at the guard, not at the warlord, but directly at the symbols of his defeat. He is coming for us. He is a force of nature, a berserker king, his movements a blur of rage and supernatural speed. He carves a path through the remaining combatants, his axe a whirlwind of death. Arik shoves me behind him, his own body a shield, and meets Chiron's charge with a deafening crash of steel on steel that sends sparks flying into the gloom. This is a battle of titans, two of the most powerful warriors in the city, locked in a savage, brutal fight to the death. Arik is stronger, more skilled, but he is wounded, his movements slowed by the gash in his leg and the deep wound in his shoulder. Kirin is faster, fueled by his dark magic, his every blow a killing strike. I am not a liability anymore. I am a weapon. I watch their dance, the chain in my hand a live wire, and I wait for my moment. It comes when Kirin, in a surge of pure fury, shoves Arik back, breaking his guard and raising his axe for a final decapitating blow. Now! I scream, and I throw my entire weight backward, yanking the chain with a force born of pure, desperate adrenaline. The pull is unexpected, brutal. It rips Arik's arm, his sword arm, back and down, pulling him out of the path of the descending axe by a hair's breadth. The axe head screams past where his neck was a second ago, and Kirin is left overextended, his side completely exposed. It is the only opening Arik needs. Arik does not hesitate. With a guttural roar, he pivots, his blade a blur in the dim light. It is not an elegant thrust or a skillful parry. It is a raw, brutal and utterly final blow, a full-bodied swing that sinks his great sword deep into Chiron's exposed side. Chiron lets out a choked, wet gasp, his eyes wide with a final shocked surprise. The unnatural crimson light in them flickers and dies, replaced by the familiar dull red of a normal Vrakan. The dark magic, the berserker rage, it all drains out of him, leaving only a broken, dying male. He slumps to his knees, his axe clattering to the floor, and then pitches forward into a growing pool of his own blood. The battle is over. The last of the frenzied warriors, their magical rage extinguished with Kirin's death, either surrender or are cut down by the guard. A profound, ringing silence descends on the great hall, a silence broken only by the groans of the wounded and the distant, mournful drip of water. We stand in the carnage, Arik leaning heavily on his sword, his breath coming in ragged, painful gasps. I move to his side, our bodies pressed together, the chain a solid, steadying line between us. The surviving nobles, their fine silks spattered with blood, stare at us from the edges of the room. Their faces are a mixture of terror and shock and a new, profound and deeply unsettling respect. We are bloodied, we are exhausted, but we are victorious. And as I stand chained to my warrior in the heart of the ruin we made together, I feel the last of the street rat's fear die, replaced by the cold, hard certainty of a wolf who has finally found her pack. Earth is pretty much a desolate wasteland since the orcs came over from Protheka, and being a woman, the best you can hope is to be someone's property. Now, after my curvy body catches Korthar's eye, he'll claim me, and I'll serve him, in any way he pleases.
You're mine now. Listen to this story and more when you get the complete Orc Warriors of Protheka audiobook and ebook bundle.
40 books, 19 audiobooks, 19 ebooks. You even get 1 free novella and 1 free audiobook.
All for a shocking 90% off.
Protheka's magic is eternal, and the complete Orc Warriors of Protheka bundle will bring over 100 hours of that magic to you.
Chapter 24. Arik. The dawn is a cold, gray thing, the faint light filtering through the high vents revealing the true cost of our victory. The great hall has been cleared of the bodies, but the scent of blood still lingers, a stubborn ghost in the air. The marble floor has been scrubbed, but I can still see the dark stains that have seeped into the stone, a permanent map of the battle we fought. My shoulder and leg ache with a deep, satisfying pain, a physical reminder that we survived. A summons from the Warlord is no surprise. I strap on my armor, the process now a complicated dance that I have learned to navigate with the woman that is chained to my wrist. She is quiet this morning, her usual sarcastic fire banked to a low, watchful ember. We are both changed, the chaos and the bloodshed of the previous night having forged a new, unspoken language between us. We are escorted to the great hall, where the surviving nobles have been assembled. They stand in tense, uneasy silence, their fine silks a jarring contrast to the grim reality of the empty spaces where their comrades once stood. As we walk to the center of the hall, to the foot of the dais, a path clears for us. The stares that follow us are no longer mocking or contemptuous. They are filled with a new, unsettling mixture of fear and awe and a deep, grudging respect. We are no longer a joke. We are a legend written in the blood of our enemies. Drazian stands before his throne, his presence a monolith of absolute, unquestionable power. Selene is at his side, her expression calm and steady, the anchor in his storm. The Warlord's gaze sweeps over the assembled nobles, a silent reminder of the price of treason. The rebellion is crushed, he declares, his voice a hammer of judgment that echoes in the silent hall. The traitors have been purged. He pauses, letting the finality of the statement settle. Lord Vaynar, the architect of this treason, has been captured, Drazian announces. By the old ways, he would be executed. By the new, he will spend his life rebuilding the city he sought to destroy. Let his punishment be a monument to his failure. A cold satisfaction moves through the crowd. He turns his gaze to a pale, trembling Lady Nysera, who is being held by 2 guards. Lady Nysera, who wielded lies as her blade, is stripped of her titles and exiled from this city to find her own silence in the wastes. As for Lord Castan and the others who followed him, they will share Vaynar's fate in the mines. He has not just won the war, he has won the peace, providing closure and a new kind of justice. Then he turns his gaze to us. This solstice began with a crime, he continues, his voice resonating through the hall. A human driven by hunger committed an act of theft. Her sentence was to be a lesson in community. In the fire of battle, she has proven herself to be a warrior. Her sentence is served. She is granted her freedom. An acolyte steps forward, a single ornate iron key resting on a velvet cushion. My world narrows to that small, dark piece of metal. Freedom. It is the moment I've been waiting for, the end of my public humiliation. But the thought of it, the thought of the chain being removed, is a sudden, sharp, and agonizing pain in my chest. The acolyte stops before her, bowing his head as he offers the cushion. The entire hall holds its breath. This is the final act of the play, the Warlord's ultimate demonstration of his new, merciful justice. She will take the key, she will be freed, and the story will be complete. I brace myself for the sound of the lock opening, for the final hollow clink of the chain as it falls away, for the sudden, searing agony of her walking away from me. She reaches out, her hand trembling slightly, and takes the key from the cushion. She holds it in her palm, staring down at it as if it is a strange, foreign object. I can see the frantic, desperate battle in her eyes. The key represents everything she has ever fought for: freedom, autonomy, the right to walk away from the darkness and the violence, and never look back. She closes her fingers around the key, a small, tight fist. My heart, a thing I thought was a dead stone, feels like it is about to shatter. She is going to leave. After everything, after the tunnels, after the battle, she is going to choose freedom, and it is her right. Suddenly she turns to me. She takes a single step, closing the small space between us. Her eyes, filled with a fierce, unwavering, and utterly terrifying certainty, lock onto mine. Slowly, deliberately, she takes my ungauntleted hand, the one that is not shackled, and turns it palm up. And with a movement that is both a surrender and a coronation, she presses the key firmly into the center of my palm. The feel of the cold, hard key in my hand is a shock, a jolt of pure, uncomprehending disbelief. The feel of her hand, warm and calloused, closing my fingers around it, is a brand. I stare at her, my mind a storm of emotions I have no names for, my throat too tight to form words. She leans in, her voice a low, steady whisper that is meant only for me, but it carries in the profound silence of the hall like a thunderclap. "If I am chained," she says, her gaze never leaving mine, "it is by choice." The words strike me with the force of a physical blow. It is not a refusal of freedom. It is a declaration of it. She has taken the Warlord's justice, his power, his grand political statement, and she has made it her own. She has chosen her chain. She has chosen me. A wave of stunned, disbelieving murmurs sweeps through the hall. The nobles stare, their minds struggling to comprehend the sheer audacity of what they have just witnessed. The chain of punishment has been transformed, reforged in the fire of a woman's will into a chain of devotion. I look down at the key in my fist, then back at her, at the small, fierce smile on her face, and I finally, truly understand.
Chapter 25. Arizel. The dawn after the longest night comes not with a rising sun, but with a quiet, miraculous piercing of the darkness. High above, faint rays of the new day's light find their way through the cracks and vents in the cavern's ceiling. They descend like silver threads, scattering across the surface of the reflection pool in a breathtaking display of shattered glass and diamonds. The great hall is quiet now, the bodies cleared, the worst of the carnage washed away, leaving only the ghosts and the deep, dark stains on the marble. We stand on the high dais, a strange, impossible coalition of survivors. Drazian and Solène, a warlord and his queen, their hands clasped, the twin pillars of this new age, Arik and I, the enforcer and his thief, bound by a length of iron and a shared bloody history. The key to my freedom is a hard, cold weight in Arik's fist, a secret promise he holds for me, and me alone. I watch the light grow, painting the cavern in soft shades of grey and silver, chasing the deepest shadows back into their corners. It is a new day, a new era. My choice from the night before settles in my bones, not as a sacrifice, but as a victory. I have spent my entire life fighting for freedom, for the right to be unbound, to belong to no one. But in choosing my chain, in choosing him, I have found a different kind of freedom. The freedom to belong somewhere, to be a part of something, to be more than just a solitary wolf surviving in the dark. As the hall slowly begins to fill with the quiet movements of acolytes and guards, a small figure breaks away from the shadows and runs toward us. It is Mira. Her face is bright, her eyes shining with an awe that is completely devoid of fear. She does not run to the Queen or the Warlord. She runs directly to me. She stops just before me, her gaze fixed on the heavy iron chain that connects my wrist to Arik's. She reaches out a small, hesitant hand and touches one of the links, her expression one of pure, childish wonder. "Is it true?" she whispers, her voice filled with the hushed reverence of a new myth. "They are saying you are the thief who stole the enforcer's chains." The words strike me with a profound, humbling force. The children of this new age will not have nightmares of the enforcer, the monster in the dark. They will have stories of the human girl who was clever enough and brave enough to steal his chains and make them her own. I kneel down, the chain clinking softly until I am at her eye level. "Sometimes," I say softly, "the most valuable things are the ones you don't have to steal. They're the ones you choose to hold on to." From the dais, Solenne's voice rings out, a final, clear proclamation to the gathering court. "Let it be known," she declares, her gaze sweeping over us all. "The longest night ends not with blood, but with bond." Her words are a perfect poetic seal on the events of this solstice, cementing our story into the official history of her new reign. Later, when the duties of the court have been seen to, and a fragile, exhausted peace has settled over the city, Arik leads me away. He says nothing, but I follow, our steps perfectly synchronized. He leads me up a long, winding stair carved into the living rock to the high, secluded balcony of black ice we have claimed as our own. The city glitters below us, a constellation of quiet, hopeful lights. From a small pouch at his belt, he takes out a single new link of shining silver. It is unlike any of the others. Etched into its surface is a small, intricate sigil, a single shattered chain link. It is the symbol of my defiance, of the words I threw at Vaynar. "Your chains break because you forged them with fear." He heard me. He understood. He takes my hand, his touch now a familiar, comforting weight. Using a small, specialized tool, he works with a warrior's precise, practiced hands. He unfastens the heavy iron shackle from my wrist, and for a single, breathtaking moment, I am free. The cold air on my bare skin is a shock, a sudden, terrifying emptiness. He then takes the new silver link and masterfully weaves it into the chain that still connects to his own wrist, before fastening the shackle, my shackle, back in place. The silver link gleams between the dark iron, a single bright star in a midnight sky. He has marked our bond, made it a part of our story. Then he uncurls his other fist. The key lies in his palm. He holds it out to me one last time, his eyes searching mine, giving me a final, silent choice. I gently close his fingers around it, and with a shared, silent understanding, he turns and throws it over the edge of the balcony. It disappears into the darkness. A final, perfect surrender. As if the world itself is bearing witness to our private right, a gentle snow begins to fall. The flakes drift down around us on the high balcony, dusting our hair and shoulders with a fine white powder. The air grows still, the cavern below a silent, sleeping giant. Arik raises our joined hands, the new silver link a gleaming line in the darkness between us. He looks not at the chain, but at me, his crimson eyes no longer holding the storms of rage or the ghosts of his past, but a calm, steady, and unwavering light that is for me, and me alone. These chains, he whispers, his voice a low, rough vow that is the truest thing I have ever heard, no longer bind me to orders. They only bind me to you. My heart, a thing I thought was a scarred and cynical knot of muscle, feels like it is about to break open with a light I never knew it could hold. I do not answer with words. I do not need to. I simply step into him, my body pressing against his, my head resting on his chest, and I feel his strong, uninjured arm come around me, holding me tight.